All right, welcome to Bet Parx Saturdays on PHLY. I am John Brazer, joined by my co-host Tommy Greene.
How you doing, pal?
Been better, but we're gonna have a good, positive show. We're gonna we've got some fun guests.
Yes,
and we're gonna break down what happened. We were hoping that we would have a pregame show and then having Game 5 tonight. But we are not.
It didn't work out that way.
We will talk about that. We're going to talk about the playoffs in general. Very exciting game last night with Seattle Mariners winning in 15 innings. We're also going to have our guest Dickie Knowles. We're going to bring on in a second to break down some of the questions as far as what happened and where do we go from here. And then in hour 2, we're going to have Shawn Landetta, a 22-season NFL guy who was 3-time All-Pro, 2-time USFL champion. He's got 2 Super Bowl rings, both of the Giants. He was in a third with the Rams. He was on 2 all-decade teams, and a great guy. So
talking about a pressure job he had.
Shawn?
Oh yeah, man.
Right. I wouldn't want to be a punter.
Punter, kicker, it doesn't matter what it is. That's a high-pressure job, man.
Well, also, when you're punting, and I want to talk to you about this, when you're punting and you're getting your leg extended, right, when guys are coming in, that's a recipe for disaster right there.
Well,
right?
it's sort of like the golfers back in the day. The old dreaded S word comes in into your mind. Yeah, you said I ain't saying it.
No.
You're saying it.
Sorry,
I don't want that to creep into my game.
My game is so bad that it can't do any worse. All right, so we got it. So we'll talk football with Shawn Landetta. Unfortunately, it was a not a good with Thursday, right? Because it was the Phillies lost in excruciating fashion. Well, again, we'll go through that.
Yeah.
The Eagles lost to their big rival, the Giants.
Man.
And then the Flyers had their opener, and they not home, but they had their opener, and they lost. It was
was a bad day all the way around.
It was the first time that all 3 teams played on a date, and a second time. Sorry, all 3 teams played on a date, and they all lost. And the Phillies got knocked out. It happened in 1983. Same thing. That same night, Eagles lost and the Flyers lost. So only 2 times in history. So. We were getting all fired up. Could have been the greatest Thursday in the history of Thursdays, but unfortunately, it was far from the greatest Thursday.
I mean, we can look at it any way we want, But it was, to me, it was a well-pitched game, and it was a good. It was a good baseball game, if you ask me. It just come down to we were on the wrong end of the stick on a play that you hate to see you end like that.
Well, I'm going to talk about Dickie. How you doing, pal?
I'm doing great. Good to be with you guys.
Welcome back. Well, first of all, I know you know a lot of our players, from working in the minor leagues, working as an EPA, not EPA, that's
EAP. I've been called EPA quite a bit. Been called worse, too.
That's Environmental Protection Agency, not employee assistance program.
I'm in a different role now, so it's a little different.
Yeah. But, you do know Kirkring and some others. When you watch that, you couldn't help but feel for Ryan Kirkring. I mean, it's going to be kind of a Mitch Williams, Bill Buckner. It's going to be, the Black Friday against the Dodgers. There's a lot of things that, unfortunately, But look, it's not Kirkring. Kirkring did not lose that game. The game was lost because our hitters, we didn't hit when we had 1 run. You can't win a baseball game. I mean, you can. And actually, we probably could have if that umpire had called a strike. And Sanchez, you never see pitchers give a glare. Sanchez would have struck him out. That would have, would have been.
That's what I was getting ready to say. I mean, it was a huge thing, and you're exactly right.
And it created more pitches.
We were taught not to even give a notion to an umpire because back in the day they would really, really stick it to you.
They're a little better back in the day.
But that was a huge pitch in the ball game.
Could have been a 1-0 game.
We could have won that ball game.
And Sanchez would have gone longer. But
to me, that was the big thing. Yeah,
I don't know how you can miss that pitch.
No,
at that time, right? Yeah. And actually, they do a recap of the umpires' calls, for all 3 games or all 4 games, and they'll say like, where did it, could it have cost one team or the other? And wouldn't you know it, everyone. And again, it's not the umpire's fault. When you go 1 for 14, of which our big hitters went 1 for 14.
Yeah.
That's not going to help matters. That's really why we lost. The offense didn't come through. But at the same time, we could have somehow walked out of there with a win if people were doing their jobs. But let's get to Kirking. The one thing I was very impressed with is, again, this is a devastating moment for him. Obviously, he knows his bases loaded. He knows there's 2 outs. And he fumbled it, went right back to him. He fumbled the ball. And then I just think I think there's no better word for it. He panicked. And JT is literally has his arm pointing to first base. I just think he kind of looked at that. I'm sure he saw it. But at that point, he probably thinks, I don't have time to go to first. Maybe my only time is to go to home. And then just, fired it. And what I do like, Nick Castellanos, I know fans have been tough on Nick for his up and down career in Philadelphia, but he purposely came off and went right to Kirkring and put his arm around him, walked off the field, and you saw a lot of other people, coming up to Kirkring, and I hope he doesn't wear the weight of it. It's going to be tough for him, but he's a good kid. We had him on our podcast backstage with John Brazer, and super guy, and he's young, 24 years old. I just hope he can get through this.
He's got a fantastic arm. He's going to be at the back end of the bullpen. That play, as you just described it, I don't think you can describe it any more unless we had him here to ask him what he was thinking. But I think you're right. I think he didn't think he had time to throw the first. He booted the ball around. He knows the winning run's right in front of him.
Right.
And I think maybe that's what got him. There's the winning run. I'm going to throw it home. And maybe if he throws a seed home, he's got him. But, PFPs are something that's missing in baseball. Me and Tommy was talking about it.
Explain PFP if people don't understand.
Well, it's
pitchers fielding practice.
Yeah, and how many times, Tommy, do we go through that over
Every day
and over and over? And you're covering all those plays. And that play right there is a play where, we're creatures of habits, both good and bad. And I think that's where he booted the ball around a little bit, and he just panicked. Think about it. You got the weight of the world on your shoulders right there. You can't give up a run or your season's over. I've been in that situation before, and it's a tough one to be in. And I'm with you. I think he's going to recover from that. I think he's going to be fine. And I love it that I've seen Sosa and Wilson with him in the dugout after the game. But if you've seen the interview.
And he did the interview. There's a lot of guys that wouldn't,
Oh, he owned it.
You don't have to do the interview, post-game interview. He accepted like a man and got up there and said, I messed up. And that's all you can ask for. And it's more than you can ask because, again, he could have, if his choice, he could have just said, I'm too devastated to talk to the media.
And I'm just going down that same road you did, Johnny, because that got me. That's what got me the most was he stood up there like a man, dear, and you could see the tears in his eyes.
Right. Yeah.
You could see the hurt on him, and that's where it got me. That's where my heart was bleeding for the kid. I knew he messed up, but like you said, he's a great kid. He's got great stuff. He's going to be around for a long time, but when I seen him do that interview, I felt a little bit better, even though you could see the emotional weight just all over his face.
Yeah. Tommy,
I want to say something on that. When he made the play, it looked like to me he was set up to go to first.
Yeah.
And because he kind of juggled it a little bit, he kind of, and that's what cost him.
And it was a bad throwing position.
Yeah, because he was just in a bad throwing position to do. That's what it looked like to me. I was like, why didn't he just go to first? He had plenty of time, Joe.
All right, Tommy, talk about back in '93. A similar situation.
Yeah.
It's not he didn't make an error, but he made I guess he put a cookie over the plate.
Well, it was a physical mistake.
Right.
He threw something that he knew he didn't want it there.
But talk about
a mistake. Yeah.
But talk about the aftermath because we all know that Mitch Williams. Throughout his career after that, owned up to it, said, what, I messed up. Joe Carter got the better of me, and I think Philadelphians, accepted him. It wasn't a Bill Buckner situation where I think, Red Sox fans were really upset at Bill Buckner.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's whose fault that is, whether it's, the fans are a little too callous or the Bill Buckner did maybe. I don't know the situation where they didn't own up to it. Mitch owned up to it.
Yeah.
He wore it. And
that's why they like Mitch. They love Mitch.
And they love Mitch.
Even though they gave him some grief right after that, but they love Mitch.
Do you remember what happened right after when he gave up that home run? You're in the clubhouse. He gives up that home run to Joe Carter. Do you remember kind of like what did people, just like they did with Kirk Greene, kind of teammates rally around him or did Mitch just kind of want to be left alone? Do you remember?
Mitch is one of those, I think he wanted to be left alone. Yeah, I mean, we all knew he didn't mean to do that.
Of course.
You know? And it's a go by and, you know, tap on the back. We know, you know, type of thing to acknowledge that. Well, I mean, there's things that happen, you know. I was sort of hot, you know, because when I come into my locker, I had reporters around my locker.
Right.
You know, and I was like, and they were asking me questions. Well, don't you think Jimmy should have put you in? And that's, you know, I mean, why? I mean, they were questioning Jimmy's decision. I just looked at him and told him to get out of my locker. I said, "What, are you crazy?" You know, the guy on the field in the ninth inning, it was on the mound. That's the guy I wanted on the mound.
Didn't Mitch Williams set the record for saves that year?
Yeah,
for the Phillies?
I couldn't believe I was getting questions like that. I told him to get out of my locker.
Right.
You know, so I mean, that's what hurts me a lot. For a situation, I'm hoping they treat. I didn't see all the interview. I saw this like the next day interview with Kirkering a little bit. I didn't watch it all. I just kind of, but I'm hoping they didn't pound on him. You know,
they didn't.
No,
which is
they
good.
pounded on Mitch a little bit. I remember that watching it. You know,
but I think the media were different back then too.
Yeah.
I think the media were a little more.
They were diggers, man.
Cynical and a little more, you know, you had the kind of old school writers that weren't afraid to, you know, they didn't care about feelings. They want to get the good story from their end. Whereas I think it's a little different these days.
But Mitch stood up strong during that interview. I think he did a heck of a job too. You know, we're close. Me and Mitch, we've always been since 1985 or 4. I can't remember. But the one thing about Mitch was he wanted the ball. You know,
it
that
didn't matter. Every day, every save situation. He didn't talk to me for a month.
Really?
In '93, because I threw 5 complete games in a row.
Is that right?
Yeah. He didn't talk to me till he was mad.
Get out of here.
He didn't.
He wanted to pitch every day.
But he's giving you a day off. He's giving
I
day.
won all 5 of the
Paid
games.
vacation.
You know, so it
If
was
Mitch
the
could
same
have pitched
situation. A lot of them.
162, he would have pitched 162.
Right.
What I want to say about Mitch, it's different for me, and I know you know, for me, Johnny, it's different because he gave his best and threw a pitch. People look at this like Kirkling's was a tremendous mental error.
Yeah.
You know? And I think that's the difference in it a little bit.
I think
it was a physical error first.
Yeah.
Because when he bobbled, and then it was
a mental,
the physical error caused the mental error.
Well, first of all, he executed a pitch perfectly. You know, the guy couldn't do nothing when he hits that little swinging bunt. Is basically what it was.
Right.
And sometimes, I mean, that changeup, it's like you're fielding a changeup almost. You're going down, I mean, to get it. And you can bobble. It's just like the fundamentals of the thing. You got to make sure you catch it first before you throw it. You know
what's funny? This whole series, if you had looked at the stats after the Dodgers series, not knowing who won, if you had said, all right, what team had more runs scored? What teams had more hits? What team had better batting average? Which team had a better batting average with runners in scoring position? What teams had a lower ERA for their starters, right? The team had a higher OPS? And you saw the Phillies had a higher best and all that.
And lost.
And they lost three games and won one. You would say that's crazy. But what it comes down to
you still got to play
baseball,
the game.
well, it also comes down to timely hitting, right? It's
timely
not the amount of
hitting.
hits, it's timely hitting. And it's
timely walking,
and it's not just this. It's not just the starters, but the bullpen. So, and there's different philosophies. So, you know, for the Dodgers, Game 1, I think Dave Roberts had their bullpen. I love when people would say, "Oh, you got to get into the Dodgers bullpen." Well, no, you don't, because the Dodgers don't have a bullpen. They've got like 5 starters that are being overpaid that they can't crack the starting rotation. So there's your bullpen. Right? They're not having to go to Tanner Scott and some other guys that are struggling. For the most part, they went to Sasaki and they went to Trinan and they went to guys, again, that were starters, that were overpaid starters that are really in the bullpen. So, but in that Game 1, he went pretty much all starters.
Yes.
Right? He didn't go to their beleaguered bullpen.
Well, if you watch the Dodgers play the last month, I started watching the Dodgers after the Phillies played them there. I wouldn't go to that bullpen either.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I have never seen a bullpen with those guys had good years, had good numbers. Struggle like that, it really didn't make sense.
Well, it does, and that's what's so great about the game of baseball.
baseball.
You got to play them, dude.
But
you got to go out there. I mean, every day can be a different day, and bottom line for our hitters and stuff, we have to take take advantage of mistakes and not foul them off. You get a pitch to hit.
Back to his point.
And they did take advantage because obviously the big swing in Game 1, we had a 3-0 lead. They battle back. They get Sanchez out. Robertson comes in again after getting the last out, comes in again, and then, puts the first 2 guys on base. Strom comes in, and then, again, there was a mistake by Strom. So the Dodgers didn't make the critical mistakes.
Yeah.
We didn't capitalize, or we made the critical mistakes, whether it's little things, whether it's, Trey Turner throwing to the right side of the plate instead of center or left, which...
That's a tough play, though.
That is a very tough play.
Yeah.
I'm not blaming Turner, but I'm saying that that little inches right there.
Yeah.
Whereas,
Makes a
same
difference.
thing with the bunt. I know that was people are talking about the bunt. Should he have bunted? Should he have not bunted? But the bunt, you got to give credit to the Dodgers. Dodgers had the wheel play. They did it well, but, I guess, what do you do in that situation? Should he have tried to bunt? But it depends on where the pitch is coming.
He bunted it where he's supposed to bunt.
Yeah, fantastic bunt.
Yeah.
Right.
But what are we taught to do, even as pitchers?
Yeah.
I know. I was told. Fugosi told me. My manager told me if they got the wheel play on, you see that shortstop take off like he's doing, you drag it back and you punch it. You swing, and because that third baseman's on you.
Right.
First and third are on you, and so that's going to get their attention. You don't even have to hit it. You can swing and miss it. But that also tells them, okay.
A left-handed batter, though, so it's a little harder.
Because he had a strike to play with because the first one was a ball, correct?
Yeah.
He could pull it back or take a hack and swing at it and still, are they going to do it again? They might not put the wheel play on next time. Then he puts the butt down and it moves him over.
You got to give the Dodgers credit right there. They put the wheel play on.
That was a great play.
Executed it. Yeah,
and that's where you do have to give them credit. And I wasn't I'm not putting the blame on obviously Turner or Rob Thompson or anything. I just think the Dodgers executed what they needed to execute. They pretty much played a clean series for the most part. I know Hernandez had an issue that allowed a guy to advance more, but for the most part they played a clean game. And we played a clean, but we just made it's not even mistakes. We just, Strom made the mistake pitch. Again, Turner was a tough play, great effort. But again, if just that comes over here, if the umpire calls that, Castellanos had a ball where Freddie Freeman was running to second. It looked like he had him dead to, I think it was game 1.
Yep.
And he chose not to throw to second. It's just little things that just,
fundamental baseball.
That just kind of added up.
Bottom line, we scored the 3 runs in 1 inning. We didn't add on later.
Right. Well, there's no doubt.
If we'd added a run or two, it makes a difference in the ball game, a little bit. Puts the heat on them a little bit.
This was a pitching series.
Yes, it was.
This was the two of the better. You seen one last night. This was last night. I'm watching a game last night, 15-inning game. Everybody's throwing their best pitch like it's the 7th game of the World Series. I still think these two teams pitching is the best outside of the Dodgers' normal bullpen.
Yeah.
I think and they're not that bad. That's why I'm saying I can't believe they got that bad, and it had to become mental. But when you look at this series, everything went right for the Dodgers.
Yes, that's what I was trying.
It didn't go.
That's what I was trying to say.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
It did go right for the Dodgers, and I believe in my heart if we win that game, and if we played tonight with the weather, I believe that I don't think anybody going to stop. I don't think nobody will stop the Dodgers now because I don't think anybody was going to stop the Phillies.
Yeah.
And I could be wrong about that, but I just think those are the 2 best teams. And it was a fun series in many ways, and it was not a fun series in a lot of ways. Not just because we lost. I expected more out of both teams. Ohtani went 1 for 15.
Ohtani was
I think the shocking thing. I think if a team just tell me your opinion. I think the pitching is going to be a key with the team just left in.
Yes.
Right now, obviously, the Dodgers got their starting pitching is
it's set
legit.
up pretty good.
Now, Seattle's got a pretty good.
I think
pretty good starting
I think if
pitching.
it's Seattle Dodgers,
because they can hurt you. They can keep it low with one swing of the bat by somebody else, like what they got. Low scoring games is
and they've got Kirby, they got Gilbert, they've got. I don't know if Woo's in or out for the series, but
I don't know. He had a pectoral strain or something, didn't he? I don't see him being in.
That's a team that would be a good matchup. Toronto's got a very good offense. They're pitching. It'd be interesting. Hoffman's their closer. All right, but back to the Phils too. I think bottom line is it's basically in the 3 losses, and this is the key stat. In the 3 losses that we had, our top 3 hitters that get paid a lot of money, but Turner, Schwarber, and Harper, were 3 for 35. with 15 strikeouts.
Wow.
3 for 35, 15 strikeouts. And I don't care how good you're pitching. And our pitching, for the most part, was good with the little mistakes here and there. But again,
anytime your pitching staff's got below, they had a 3.87.
If you don't,
2.87 ERA for the series.
Yeah,
if you don't get that production from the big guys, it's really tough to win.
Yeah. So, Brazer, Dickie, Parx Casino, Pennsylvania's #1 casino. They have it all: excitement, headline entertainment, and a collection of award-winning restaurants like the Liberty Bell Gastropub and Beer Garden, the Parx Grill Steakhouse, the Bamboo Noodle House, Chicky and Pete's. Parx Casino, this is how you win. Tickets on sale for these headliners here. So let's see what we got. For December 5th, we have Straight No Chaser. December 6th, comedian Ken Jeong. I think if you said somebody here last time.
Hangover 1 and Hangover 2.
Yeah, December 12th, Get the Lead Out, a Led Zeppelin
Very
tribute.
good cover band.
That's a Brazer right there.
Yeah.
November 26th, comedian Joe Diaz. October 25th, Almost Queen. That should be a good
Queen,
one.
or another good cover band.
Yeah.
November 21st, Air Supply. November 22nd.
You're All Out of Love.
Yeah. November 22nd, comedian Brian Regan. ParxCasino.com. Buy your tickets for all shows. Parx Casino, this is how you win. You must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Tommy, you shouldn't have done that reading, because especially the beginning part, because it's around lunchtime and I'm getting a little hungry and I'm not sure if we can.
Well, I know.
I
I mean, just talking about the gastropub and beer garden.
Yeah.
We don't,
I'm gonna have to go there after the show here, Tommy.
Need something.
All right, new feature too this week. If you have questions for us, whether baseball or football, since we'll be talking a lot of football in the second hour, you can email our producer, Andrew Frazier. It's Andrew at allphly.com. That's Andrew at allphly.com. If you email Andrew with a question, we will answer the question. So feel free to do that. And if you are in the Bensalem area, we'll be here till 2 o'clock. Come on down and say hi to Dickie Knowles, Tommy Greene, Shawn Landetta. Again, this is Bet Park Saturdays. And it's a great day today. You do have Game 5 of the Cubs and the Brewers tonight, 8 o'clock. Who do you guys like in that game? I do like how the Brewers play the game. They play kind of old school.
Yeah.
They really don't, Yelich is a big name and Contreras, right? But they don't have the huge Soto or Acuna.
They're playing in Milwaukee, right?
Right.
They're playing in Milwaukee.
Playing in Milwaukee. So
you know what you just said. I like Milwaukee. My heart's with the Cubs because I was a Cubby for 4 years.
Right.
But I do like Milwaukee. But I haven't picked one right yet.
Yeah.
But anyway, think about our club. We got beat.
Yeah.
2 games at home.
Yeah.
I mean, a couple years ago, I told Larry Bowa I would probably kiss where the sun don't shine if we lost 2 against Arizona in our home ballpark, and we lost 2 against Arizona. Then we lost 2 in our. If we win 1 in our ballpark, just 1,
right?
On that first 2 games. But anyway, I like Milwaukee.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. That
and they haven't set pitching yet, right?
They haven't. I think it honestly might be 2 bullpen games, right, Nick? When they don't announce the starters, that means obviously
both teams didn't announce the starter.
To be determined.
Not yet, and it's it's whatever. It's 12, almost 12:30 for an 8 o'clock game. So it looks like they're going to go.
Milwaukee's notorious for that, but Chicago's not, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is
unusual. It could be a big bullpen game. You're going to see you'll see the kid that made the All-Star team over Sanchez. Questionable move, but very questionable move.
Oh my God!
Right,
you can't do that.
All right, so let's stay on the playoffs.
No matter how good he was, he ain't had the time in yet.
Sanchez is going to be he had a big argument that he should, very well could win the Cy Young. We know it's going to be Skeens, but here's a guy and he had a great first half of the season, so it's not like and here he didn't even make the All-Star team. That's ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
But all right, so
don't get me started on that.
Tonight, Brewers, Cubs, and we're thinking. Are you rooting? And so you're rooting for the
Cubs,
but you think the Brewers are going to win?
Yes.
And who are you rooting for?
I'd like to see the Cubbies.
Cubbies?
Yeah.
All right. And who do you think's going to win?
I don't know. I ain't watched them good enough. All
right. Then
it depends on. I'd like to see how the pitching.
I just think that home field advantage is showing up. It's showing up, and I thought it would show up in ours, but it didn't for whatever reason. But it's showing up in this series.
Yeah. And I know that you're going in the American League in the championship series. I'm guessing you're rooting for the Seattle Mariners because you have PTSD.
I'm pulling for
Toronto,
the big dumper, man.
Right?
I'm all about the big dumper.
You'll
North
never
Carolina boy.
Yeah, you got the big dumper and anti-Toronto.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
You know, I
Toronto, man,
I
had a
ain't got them
good
right
second
yet,
half, man.
but I can't see Seattle hitting enough, so I'm going to go with Toronto.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a Seattle Dodgers,
I hope you're right.
unfortunately.
I
I
hope
hope
you're
I'm
right.
wrong, because I hope it's Seattle,
Well, Seattle's going to
Milwaukee.
have to pitch like they're capable of, because they got to keep them close, so their lineup has a chance.
Yeah.
I like your thinking. I hope it's Seattle, Milwaukee too, because I do not want to see the Dodgers in the World Series.
No, I'm not even rooting for a team. I'm rooting against the team. That's
Me
basically
too.
what I'm doing.
Me too.
All right, today
I'm on board with that, brother.
Today, Tommy and Dickie, we got a big day. I mean, here we are at the sports book, and you got Ohio State versus Illinois, 2 ranked teams. You got Alabama versus Missouri, 2 ranked teams. You got game day right now is at Indiana and Oregon. It's in Eugene, Oregon. Indiana's got the coach that's I don't know if you guys follow college football, but their coach doesn't lack confidence. Put it that way.
No,
That's Mickey Morandini's MRI.
And Schwarber.
Yeah, it's Schwarber.
Yeah, Schwarber went to Indiana.
Yeah.
Oregon. So then you have Oklahoma, Texas, right? The Red River
right
Bowl.
there. How about that one?
So that's a big one. And you got Arkansas, Tennessee. You got Florida, Texas A&M. Pretty much when you name an SEC team, it's a big game, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Georgia,
That's
Auburn,
football. That's
and
football
South
to me.
Carolina, LSU, right? Almost all those teams are and the only reason why I'm not mentioning my beloved UVA Cavaliers, ranked 19th in the country. Thank you very much.
You're very
Really?
welcome.
And
I like
and
that.
I'll be there
Yeah.
next weekend. They beat Florida State on national TV 2 weeks ago.
about
They
that?
beat
I
Louisville
thought
last
of you
week.
that night. Yeah.
So,
that's why you've been in such a good mood.
well, that's the only thing that I got. Whoa.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You okay, honey?
All right, well, we have a
She's
guest today on the radio show. So thank you very much. There you have it.
There you have it.
I know, but someone just dropped in to say hi.
Let me get it real quick.
All right.
There's stuff flying everywhere.
Well, you never know who's going to bump in and say
I
hi.
thought that was a fanatic. I'm so used to him. I was going, how do you didn't tell me he's going to be here?
I thought that was a fanatic too, because someone bumped into me. Obviously, I'm like, all right, is that Shawn Landetta doing something? Is that the fanatic?
There's never a dull moment.
Wow. All right.
I think she tripped over the
You know what?
stand.
I don't
Yeah,
think
I
she's
think
a UVA fan. I'm talking UVA football, and she's like, "Rah, I like Virginia Tech." Boom. Right?
Well, we have it all.
Well, you've seen it all right
She
there.
might have been a Dodger fan.
Did you get your shoulder? she got my shoulder right there. Did you get? You're good.
She got mine too, but
got given.
she didn't injure me. I get hurt
I
walking,
think
so I'm lucky.
Look, Dickie's single. I think he was just falling for. She was falling for
Yeah,
Dickie.
I think she.
Right?
I think
That's
she,
right.
She
I
was
was
falling
single.
for Dickie.
She
Where'd
was,
she go?
She was
Oh, never mind.
She was legitimately falling for Dickie.
Dickie, you should go with somebody with a little better bounce.
I like it, Johnny.
Here we go. He's going down the wrong road
Yeah,
now.
we're gonna go there. All right, so let's talk. We talked to Fightin' Phils as far as what happened, right, for the most part. Let's talk about where they go from here, because I want to get both your assessment. You know, if you look at, there's three major free agents. There's a lot of free agents, but there's 3 major free agents. If you go through, Ranger Suarez, Schwarber, Real Muto. Harrison Bader has a mutual option. He's going to decline his end because he had a very good year.
Right.
And we would love to pick up our option, but he's going to probably, so he's a free agent. If you look at the bullpen, Alvarado comes back if we take his club, the club option, which I think we will, because I think it's $10 million, which is a good price for Alvarado. Robertson's a free agent. It was just a 1-year deal. Kerkering's back. Strom's back on a long-term deal. We have Duran, who's got 2 more years.
That's huge.
Yeah,
That's
so
huge.
pretty much your bullpen, and then you just piece it together with maybe some younger guys. I don't think I'm missing anybody. I might.
No, you got it.
No, I got
No,
it. And you got some other guys. Griff McGarry could come up as a starter. Maybe he's a bullpen guy. Who knows? But for the most part, then you go to the infield, and you've got Bohm's a free agent after 2026. You got Turner's there for a long time, obviously. I think 2031. You've got Stott, he's got to be coming up after 26, 27. He's coming close. And then obviously Harper's here for a long time. You go to the outfield. Castellanos has 1 more year. You've got Max Kepler, who's who's a free agent, and you've got Marsh, who's up for arbitration. So for the most part, there's some stability, but you're going to have to figure out what you're going to do with an outfield. You're going to have to make some changes, right? So do you think we'll start with individuals? Do you guys think JT Realmuto will be back?
I do. Yeah. I mean,
do.
he's your best catcher. He's one of the best catchers in the league. Marchand's a backup, and he's a great backup.
He's a great backup.
Yeah, and I think JT's got to be a priority. At least I think JT takes care of himself. I think he had a great second half. I think he looked good enough to I hope that JT and the club can work out something sooner than later, because you got the other guys coming up.
Like a 2-year deal with a third-year option or something like that.
I think
right?
that sounds great. I mean, if I'm in charge, I think a 2-year deal with a third option sounds fantastic.
Yeah. Yes.
Let's get it
And
done.
he knows our pitchers, right? So
that's the big thing, the way he handles the staff and he knows our guys.
I mean, his offense
and they love throwing to him.
Took a little hit this year, but he still gave you some offense, and more importantly,
especially in the second half.
Right, and he's a bridge. We don't have anybody. Taid wasn't even that we traded away for Duran, but Taid was 19 years old, was far from ready, and we don't really have any. We have some good young, promising catchers, but they're ways away. If we had somebody that was just right on the if we had the kid that we traded
Ohapi.
If we had Ohapi, but we didn't trade him away. We had Ohapi. Well, obviously that would make the decision much better. But JT's a leader. He's a great catcher. He knows our pitchers. Yes, I agree. All right,
and
how
physically, he's still. He's in the best shape. He still runs good. And, he adds a dynamic. To the offensive side. If he can carry the offense like he did the second half to the start of next year.
And I think that's what you're going to see more of because of the knee and everything. And the start of the season, I think he's healthy, and I think he's a dynamic catcher. I think that we need him.
Yeah. All right, how about Schwarber? Now, Schwarber, obviously, what a walk. Here's this walk here, and he hits 56 home runs. His timing was great, and but what a key to our team. I mean, the bad news is every team's going to want him. Now, a lot of the teams, he's a DH, and so a lot of the teams, the big spending teams, have their DH. If you look at the Yankees, they've got Stanton, right? And Judge at some point, might be a DH at some point. You've got the Mets. Well, the Mets are going to be looking at Soto at some point as the DH in the near future, right?
I think so.
Right?
You look at by the age of 30, probably.
You got the Dodgers already have Ohtani, and then you got the Giants who spend a lot of money. They have Devers, right? Who's their DH?
Who's Cincinnati have?
Well, that's you said a big one.
Thing. Yeah,
so
does he want to be near home?
He grew up an hour from Cincinnati. He had him. I think he threw out the first pitch to his dad, right?
His dad threw the first pitch out, and he caught it. Yeah.
So who knows whether he wants
might
to
hit 70
come back? But if you're Schwarber, can Cincinnati pay? Because John Middleton's one of my guess is he's going to want to keep him, right? So can the Reds match, or can they go toe-to-toe with that? B is, you got to think the comfort. If you're Schwarber, these guys, the clubhouse, the city, the media,
you won't have a chance to do it again next year.
Yes, and John Middleton's going to put him in position to do it again. And that's the other thing. So if you're thinking about going to the Reds, well, do the Reds, I know they made the playoffs this year, but are they going to, they're going to spend money on you, Schwarber, but are they going to surround the team? They've got pieces, right? But are they going to surround the team? So Schwarber's got a big decision, and maybe there's some team out of nowhere that I don't know who that team would be. The Angels or somebody, a random team that says,
is the money going to be that bigger factor to Schwarber?
To me, he doesn't seem like that.
I don't know.
I could be wrong.
Tremendous interview that he did in the paper. I'm sure you read it. Tremendous interview.
Read it yet, so.
It was tremendous, talking about, this is one of the best organizations, top to bottom. The owner wants to spend money to win. They've shown that. This club's gotten better every year. 2022, nobody expected 2022 when it happened. But they have gotten better every year.
Yeah.
And he sees that as a player, but he also sees comfort as a player being here. And he loves his teammates. He said that. He loves the organization. He loves the town. So he said all the right things, but you have to understand, we played in an era, and you made more money in your era than I did.
Yeah.
I made more money in my era than the people behind me.
Yeah.
This is the era of the golden egg, goose, whatever you want to call it. This is the era of baseball when millions of dollars are being given out.
Right.
You got a free agent pool out there.
No, hundreds of millions of dollars are given out.
And billions almost.
Yeah.
Well,
You know,
he's going to have pressure from the player union, from the
But you look at the free agent market. You got Tucker. Let's just say he's number one. Tucker's a great player.
Yeah.
And Tucker may have been above him last year, but he's not now. He's number one.
Right.
So that's the thing that ownership's going to have to look at. John Middleton's got to look at. I'm sure John Middleton's first priority is Kyle Schwarber.
They've been talking about it for a while.
You said number one, but Ranger Suarez might get, because he's younger.
Yes.
And he's a pitcher, and he's battle tested in the playoffs. He's one of the best.
I'm talking about
pitchers.
the Phillies number
one.
No,
I know. But it's interesting that Schwarber is probably the number one priority for teams.
Yeah.
But Ranger probably might get more money and longer. Will get longer contract from somebody.
You know what? That's a good point, because everyone needs pitching.
A left-handed
no
pitcher,
matter how
too.
much pitching you have, and that's another one. Can we afford Schwarber and Ranger?
I think the Phillies would obviously love to have Ranger. Who wouldn't? I just think, if you're looking at the rotation, you've got Wheeler coming back. You got Noel to a long-term deal. You got Sanchez coming back.
When is
you got
Wheeler
Luzardo coming back. Well, right. That is a big key. Luzardo coming back, and then you got Painter theoretically coming up, and you got McGarry, and you got some other guys that could. And, Walker theoretically is under another deal. Now, whether we move him or move on from him, or, he didn't have a bad year. So
no, he was serviceable this year.
Why wouldn't you?
I thought he did.
Why
he
wouldn't
was
you
one of the surprises of the team this year.
So why wouldn't you keep him as depth? So I guess the question is, you've got a lot more. There's not that necessity for starting pitchers as much as he's almost like a luxury that not sure if we can afford the luxury. You know what I mean?
He's a Swiss knife type pitcher too.
We love the guy.
Who
doesn't love Ranger Suarez? The guy is about as cool as a cucumber out there. If you want somebody out there, Sanchez and Suarez are the two guys that obviously Wheeler's one of the biggest playoff pitchers.
He was the one you wanted fielding that last play.
Oh, Ranger Suarez, right. Right. He's almost like Cliff Lee. Remember how calm, cool, and Cliff Lee was out there? That he just doesn't have a heartbeat, and it's that's going to be tough to lose Ranger. But I think especially if you're trying to prioritize Schwarber, if that is the priority, I don't know. Maybe the priority is over. Maybe it's pitching. But if the priority is Schwarber, then I just don't know if we have enough to prioritize a pitcher.
Here's the thing you have to look at. Considering this is the era of home runs, who else other than Harper hit 27, but where are all the home runs come from?
We didn't have nobody else for 20, right?
No,
I don't think so. No.
So
if Schwarber,
it's a huge thing.
Yeah, 56
huge things. How he impacted our wins this year.
I think if you somehow can't re-sign Schwarber, then I think you got to go hard for Tucker, because he's the only one on the market
the only reason I mentioned that one name.
That can replace that production.
Yeah.
Right?
And I don't think he can replace Kyle Schwarber.
No.
Nobody can replace Kyle Schwarber.
Because of the leadership and everything else. So
yes, you're
to
exactly
me,
right.
he's your number one priority.
Yes, you're right.
No question.
Tucker's younger, right? And he plays the outfield, so you get somebody out there.
Right.
But you're totally right. There's that, the production, the home runs, the RBIs, number one in both categories in the National League. But then that leadership, you're right. Just that, I think, Harper's a leader in his own right but I think his is more like on the field leadership and his what he does. I think Schwarber's more that kind of guy they go to, and I'm not in the clubhouse, so this is just my guess, but I think Schwarber, from everything I hear, is that he's the guy that's kind of that, like the Darren Dalton.
Yeah.
He's like the Darren Dalton.
In a different way, right.
He's the Darren Dalton of the team.
I just hope people don't forget about what a great season it was because of the ending of the season. You had 4 home runs. You had 3 home runs gained from a shortstop that was out for 2 weeks and came in, or a utility player. But the 4 home run night with a chance to hit 5.
Yeah.
And all the things that Sanchez did.
Yeah.
Sanchez has become one of the best pitchers in baseball.
In baseball.
And I just hope the fans remember what a remarkable season it was. We're going to go into a difficult time this year, too, with the free agency. I don't think I think with the looming collective bargaining agreement up the following year. I don't know if the money's going to be $700 million. I don't know if the money's going to be $600 million. So that might play a role that works out in, all the teams' favors. But, how much more can you keep going with $800 million?
Yeah, I know.
$900 million. But maybe they get something done with Schwarber that allows them to go for JT and then.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm with you, though. I think that Rangers going to get a lot of offers and a lot of money.
Pitching's where it's at. Yeah, I mean, if he can stay healthy, he's one of the coolest. I mean, he can do it, man. He's going to get money.
Tommy, pitching's not only where it's at, but it's also where you're eating and where you're watching concerts.
Yes, we are.
Was this about the time when someone fell into our lap?
Yes.
How about that?
Should I be on guard a little more? Looking around here.
Hey, guys, Parx Casino is the go-to spot for nightlife and entertainment. Action, excitement, headline, national entertainment at the Excite Center. Plus sing-along brunches, Latin nights, country line dances. That's right up Dickie's alley.
Amen.
Comedy night, happy hour in the Liberty Bell Gas Pub and Beer Garden. Oh, makes me hungry. Plus 76ers watch parties, the Bamboo Noodle House, the Parx Grill, and the best cover bands. The Bet Parts Sportsbook, a beautiful poker room. Pennsylvania's #1 casino, Parx Casino. This is how you win. You must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
All right, thank you, Tommy. And the one person we haven't really mentioned is Rob Thompson. I know there's been speculation in the media, talk radio. Rob Thompson has the best winning percentage of any manager in Phillies history.
Yeah.
If you look at his career as a manager, which is not long, but he also has one of the best winning percentages of any manager out there. Again, it's a short track record.
Yeah.
But just what we had talked about with Schwarber, that the players are comfortable with Rob Thompson. I think being a manager is you're basically open yourselves up to second guessing decisions you make. Right, some of the great.
We played a game of baseball.
Some of the great decisions.
There are coaches everywhere, man.
Right, some of the great decisions you make, fans don't even see because obviously it's baked in the cake and it works out. But the ones, it's almost like an offensive lineman. When an offensive lineman gets called for holding or something, an egregious penalty, that's when they stand out. A ref is going to stand out when he makes, or an umpire is going to make a. Rob Thompson, I think, the players will go through a wall. You heard what Harper said about him. You heard what Schwarber, other guys. I think he is a good person to steer. To me, it's whether he wants to, move on. Whether he wants to, because he was gonna quit before he got the opportunity. Right?
Yeah, he was going to retire.
He's going to retire. And I hope he stays. I really hope he stays on. He's one of mine. I'm not just saying this. I've worked with Fregosi was my first manager, and then gone through. Rob Thompson to everybody is just the same personality. Goes out, says hi to you, shakes your hand, has it's a real conversation with you, listens to you, and he just is a good quality human being. And I think he's a great manager. And I think it would be, again, you can second guess anything. And I think Kevin Long is one of the better hitting coaches, and Caleb Cotham's one of the better pitching coaches. I'm biased, so I hope.
I don't think that you could get rid of Rob Thompson because Dave Dombrowski's a smart baseball man. You described Rob. Rob's got great character. They love him. He's a great baseball man. And, he was going to retire. And then Pete, he ended up stepping in to fill in. And then, he became a great manager in Phillies history already and can become even better if he gets that World Series ring. But let me say something about Rob Thompson. When Orion came off of that field, Ryan Thompson had only one thing on his mind. Not that we lost or maybe his decisions lost. He had that kid on his mind right there. That was his priority for the rest of the time was Orion Kirkland when he came off. And that shows the character of him. Players know his character. Dave ain't no dummy. He's not going to blow the club up because the club doesn't need to be blown up. And if you're blowing the club up, you might start with your manager, but if you're not, you don't start with the manager. And I just think that's a lot of media hype. They'll probably be trying to fire him. I mean, because of the season. But I think that's the number one thing. You talk about leadership. You can talk about all the leadership you want, but if your manager's not a good leader, you'll know it.
Right.
The leadership starts with your manager.
Yeah.
Exactly right. And I also think that, some people are making comparisons to after the 2011 team, saying, all right, that was when Ryan Howard basically had the career-ending Achilles.
Right.
And then we were old at that point. Jimmy and Chase were kind of starting to be on the back end of their and we didn't really have much coming up from underneath. I think it's a little different. We're the same in the sense that we've got a lot of guys in your 30s. You got Harper, you got Turner, you got Wheeler, you got a lot of Nola, and then we're hopefully going to re-sign some of these guys. So you can see us maybe that window, but at the same time, you got thanks to Dave Dombrowski for not giving up some of these guys, but you've got Justin Crawford is probably going to be in the outfield next year.
I think you got to give him an opportunity.
Yeah, look at what we did in 1980, and you guys did in 93 too. You did in 1980. 1980, you had Lonnie Smith to come up with a very popular left fielder out there.
Skates, man.
And Greg Lenzinski was a very, very, one of the icons of Philadelphia, and Lonnie Smith hit 330-something.
Right.
And then you had Keith Moreland to come up. Then you had Kevin Sauché, you had Marty Bystrom, you had Bob Walk. Walk won 11 games. You put a little energy on that team.
Yeah.
And Dallas did that. These young guys, like you said, Justin Crawford's going to put energy on that team.
Right.
Oh, he's
He
an
can
asset,
fly,
man. His
and
legs,
he can hit.
and he can play defense.
He'll bring an element that we have with Turner, but we really, and we got Stott and Marsh are good base runners, but we're going to have somebody that's elite and young in that. And gets on base and hits.
It's his time.
I think he's deserved opportunity.
Yeah.
I mean, he's put it up at every year, so spring training is a huge thing.
That's a good thing to have. That's a good issue to have.
You also, we mentioned Painter. Painter, again, when you come back from Tommy John, the thing that you guys know as both pitchers, your velocity will come back, but it's the command that's not, and we saw that this year, that
it's the life,
his velocity was there, the life and the command that were not there, but usually, with very good pitchers, it comes back in year two, of which, I guess, would be year two, coming up. So hopefully Painter can come up, and that's exciting to see.
I guess, I don't know if Dickie went through the same thing. I never had a breaking ball, and that's something I was working on the whole time during the minor leagues, And but I think you have to go through a time, and I know I got my humble pie early a little bit because guys are paid to hit the fastball. I mean, they are, no matter what kind of fastball you got, you can survive. I got to the big leagues off a fastball, but it's about the command, and it's about the continued maturation of what you need to do. But him going through the type of year he had this year, obviously he's coming off surgery. He got a little bit of humble pie. I don't necessarily.
Which is a good thing. Right?
He's not used to being hit like that.
Right.
A little bit. So it's a good thing because it's going to happen in the big leagues.
He's one of the most mentally strong,
and that's going to be good for him.
Right.
That
You'd
I've
rather
seen.
have it start there, learn from that, and then carry it over instead of learning that lesson in the big leagues.
Yeah, he's mentally tough. He's a tough kid. He works hard. He's a tremendous athlete. And to go, like you both said, to go through that season where I think his ERA was close to 5, but he had 100 innings in. He rehabbed in AAA, basically.
Yeah.
And that some guys come back quicker from Tommy John than others.
Yeah.
But he's on the normal pace.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think next year they're going to cut him loose next year. And I think next year will be the deal. Next year you'll see the Painter that I seen for 2 years that was the best young pitcher I've seen since Roger Clemens and Dwight Gooden.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a big statement right there. The other one that's knocking on the door is Aiden Miller. Now, right now, obviously we've got Turner and Bohm, but you've got somebody that is coming up that every scout, everybody is very, very excited about, right? Aiden Miller. Then you got some young guys, Arun Escobar and some other guys. So, again, I think we've got some fortifications coming up that hopefully we'll keep getting other guys that can start replenishing. So it's a smooth transition as we're getting older, that we have some younger guys that can come in.
Tell us, Dickie, a little bit about Aiden Miller. I know he scuffled the early part of this year, but he had a pretty good second half.
Young player in Double-A with a scuffling team.
Yeah.
A lot of things were going on in Reading this year other than a big, beautiful stadium. And he was, he was put into Double-A pretty early, and players don't come up early like we did. So it was kind of early for him. But Larry Bowa loves this guy. And if Larry Bowa loves you, you can play.
Right.
And the thing, 50. Think about that. 50 stolen bases. And he's got pop.
Yeah.
And I think if you look at the last month, we play golf with a guy, Kenny Romig, that works in Reading, and in April and May is getting on me when we're playing golf. He's going, this Adrian Miller, he can't hit nothing. He can't do nothing.
Right?
I can't believe this. Yeah, every day. And the last part of the season, we played golf with him. He goes, this Adrian Miller, man, you guys better take a look at him. Like, he's not a baseball guy, right? This guy's hitting balls 400 feet. He's stealing bases. He looks great. And that's what you call the maturation of a baseball player.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen overnight. And I think Aiden Miller is 50 stolen bases.
Now,
and
is he a natural shortstop or
natural shortstop?
But you see him
could
going
go
to
He's
third.
an athlete.
Okay, so he can go there.
Yeah.
So he could be
He can
very
play
easily go to
anywhere.
third.
Yeah.
For those that don't know, the Larry Bowa, one of my favorite stories on Larry Bowa. Larry Bowa was, didn't make his varsity baseball team. Got cut every year. You knew that, right? Obviously. Yeah, he got cut 3 times from his high school. So he played American Legion. And he goes to, I believe, a community college in Sacramento. I think it was like Sacramento City College. And wants to play baseball there. Well, one of our Philly scouts went out there and said, hey, there's a kid that might be able to help us round out the minor league rosters. It wasn't, we got this kid that could be on the major leagues. We got this kid who's scrappy. He can fill out one of the lower levels, basically be a body, right?
Yep.
So they go out, Scouts goes out to check out Larry Bowa. They're playing a doubleheader, and the scout comes back, and the general manager says, how did that Bowa kid look? And he said, I don't know. What do you mean I don't know? I sent you out there to watch Larry Bowa in a doubleheader. He goes, he got kicked out of both games of the doubleheader.
That's a true story.
It's a true story. He got kicked out. He got kicked out for balls and strikes. I think the first game he got kicked out for arguing with the umpire. Maybe when he's playing, like whether he's out, someone's out or safe at second. So he gets kicked out. Well, they sign him anyway. And his first minor league game. Now again, he's not playing Little League baseball. Yeah. I mean, he didn't play varsity baseball. And his first game, he's got a chip on his shoulder. Everyone else, in this, was drafted.
Yeah, these
guys that we've invested money in, and he strikes out 4 times. Not only strikes out 4 times, doesn't even get a foul ball. Like literally, it's like the Bugs Bunny.
Good morning, good afternoon, good night.
Right.
It was good
strike
morning,
1, strike
good
2,
night.
strike 3. And so then, he's feeling like, I don't belong. My first game, obviously, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
I didn't even play varsity baseball.
He calls his dad and says, Dad, I'm going to be home soon.
Yeah, I'm going to be home soon. And then the manager comes over and says, son, don't worry about it. I know you had a tough day today, but the guy thrown against you, everyone tells me he's going to be a future Hall of Famer. His name's Nolan Ryan.
That's a great story, Johnny.
That is a great story.
I mean, it's one of my favorite.
First at bat,
Larry Bowa.
first game.
The other Larry Bowa story.
And he was
I like,
batting right-handed then, not switch hitting.
Oh,
Right.
well, imagine that.
And then my other favorite Larry Bowa story is when we opened up Citizens Bank Park in 2004. We had, I don't know if you guys remember, we had 2 exhibition games against the Cleveland Indians. They were the Indians at the time. And it was 2 exhibition games, and it was basically to kind of do a run-through, get all the kinks out of the new ballpark, make sure the Aramark stands are working, the concession, the ticket operations, new ballpark. You want to make sure everything's working before the real game. So we had decided architecturally, we're going to have the top bullpen and the bottom bullpen. And we're going to put our bullpen. Do you know this story?
No.
No. Okay, we're going to put our bullpen up top so we have a better view.
I knew that,
So we have a better view, and then put the opposing team down here. Well, we kind of forgot about Philadelphia fans, right? So back then it was easier to kind of surround that upper bullpen. Now it's a little tougher because there's you can really surround it. Well, that first game against Cleveland, an exhibition game, our fans were all over Billy Wagner or whoever else was pitching there. Just, I don't know, I'm sure they're all good-natured, but it was, it was pretty, it was hectic, right, to say the least. So after the game, Billy Wagner and a bunch of guys that were in the bullpen said, hey, can we switch? We would rather take a worse view, but let the other team get heckled by our fans, right? So we're going to switch. So they switch for game 2. Well, what they didn't switch, they forgot to switch the phone lines from the dugout. Well, who's managing the Phillies in 2004?
Larry Bowa.
Larry Bowa. And
Oh, my
an exhibition game, middle of the game, one of the pitchers for the Phillies is getting roughed up in an exhibition game. Bowa's hot, grabs a phone, goes, "Get so-and-so up." He's like, "Who's this?" "What? It's Larry Bowa." Who the blank is this?" "It's the Cleveland bullpen catcher." He's like, "Oh, sorry." You never heard that before?
I've never heard that.
I
I got to
did.
ask
Never
him
heard that
about
either?
that.
That's great. That's
Oh, my
fantastic.
God.
Does that just put Larry Bowa in a nutshell?
That's Larry Bowa.
Right? That is Larry Bowa in a nutshell, one of my all-time favorite people.
It don't matter what game you're
great
playing.
guy.
He gets hyped up for a baseball game, period. He wants it played right and done right.
And I remember when Stock comes up in 93, right?
Yeah.
We needed a shortstop. I guess you replaced Juan
Stocker.
Bell. And he said to Stock.
I will never forget that day.
He's-
Because Stocker he sat between me and Dutch.
Okay.
Down there. And I will never forget him walking in. Because when he walked in and come down there, Dutch got him, and here comes Bowa out of the coaching.
Right.
Go, you finish
And he
it.
said to Stock, he said, "Hey, kid, look, you got all-stars all around you, right? We don't need you to hit. I don't care if you don't get any hits. What I do care about is just field the ball, play your position, do your thing. Don't worry about hitting. We'll cover that with everybody, 8 other guys." Well, what happens? I think he ended up being second
320.
on the team.
Yeah.
He had
I think
320.
Eisenreich was the only one who had a higher batting
I
average.
know, isn't that great? That's awesome.
Kevin Stocker. So, and Larry Bowa, I think, too, is the guy, if you went around baseball all over the country and he said, all right, who are the top 3 baseball minds, right? Then I think Larry Bowa, again, you talk to Joe Torre, if you talk to
Jim Leland.
you talk to Ron Watson, you talk to whoever, I think they would say that, Larry Bowa has one of the best baseball minds.
Yes.
Right?
He's in the top 3, if not number 1 on my book.
Right. And I love the old school,
Love
too.
talking baseball. And
Oh.
I love sitting and listening. When everybody starts talking baseball and he's in the conversation.
But when you said that, Aiden Miller, that he's raving about him, you're right. It's almost like E.F. Hutton. When he says that, hey, I like that kid. Like, now, some are obvious. Like he said, the Bobby Witt Jr., right? The guy.
Yeah.
Everyone knows that.
He's a freak.
But you're right. You talk to Larry and you can get some. He's pretty strong in his opinions, but he's right 9.5 times out of 10.
Larry has a unique ability to not just look at your talent, but to look at what type of makeup you have.
Right.
And he's good at that. He's
Because
very
he was
good at
that
it.
guy.
Yeah.
He was that guy
Yeah.
that didn't have the golden arm, didn't have the golden bat, but everything he did, he had to work his butt off for, right? So
And-
he can see that in other guys.
I got to share one, and we'll get off the Larry Bowa thing if you want to, but I got to share this about Larry Bowa. Everybody looks at Larry Bowa, right? And you see this guy, and you wonder, you still hear the things. Larry Bowa is close to being a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
When you look at David Concepcion, but when ball was like Larry Bowa was playing shortstop, balls hit to him, it's an out 100% of the time.
Right.
But it was funny when I first came up. One of my first games, I'm out there pitching, and I didn't know Larry because I got on a plane and flew to Philadelphia and pitched my first game, and I'm in my first major league game, and we were losing 1-0. I gave up a home run, the first hitter I faced. Now we take a 2-1 lead, and I go ball 1, ball 2, and I hear my shortstop out there holler, "Throw strikes!" And I turned around,
Shocking.
and I looked at him, and I was like. And I was a little tough on the mound. I turned around, looked at him like, "Who the?" I was like, "Boy, I better shut up," But that's the kind of thing that Larry Bowa has never lost.
He's a chirper.
Yeah, but afterwards he'll say something to you to make it okay. Like he trotted off. He said, "That'll way, you could pitch here." And you're walking in. Larry Bowa told me I could pitch here.
Yeah.
But he is a tremendous motivator too. So.
I just thought of this
him.
comparison. Like it's almost like remember. You were living in Philly. Bobby Clark for the Flyers was that instigator. Was the guy that wasn't a big guy, was smaller, and I know like Dave Schultz and Bob Kelly would protect him, right?
Right.
And Bobby Clark was that leader. But again, I think there's some. I just thought about this. There's some parallels between Larry Bowa and Bobby Clark because they were.
Yeah, I never
they
thought
were,
about
they were
that,
two
but you're
guys
right.
that weren't physically built and didn't have like the incredible skills, but they were incredible winners.
Yeah.
And leaders.
That's the best way to describe Larry Bowa. He's a winner.
He's a winner. All right. Well, Dickie, your time has come. I don't know.
Fire me again.
I don't know if our next guest can take with the shoulder. You took that lady on pretty
Well,
good.
I kind of leaned in so she'd hit you.
You threw her his way.
Yeah, you threw her my way, and then, and again, I thought it was. I didn't know what it was. I honestly, I didn't. I thought it was like someone joking around. I thought it was a fanatic. I thought it was.
I did. I thought it was fanatic. I thought he was going over to get you.
Still not really sure how. Oh, she tripped.
She tripped over the corner because she was trying to look this way, I think, and she just tripped.
Yeah, I think she was mesmerized again by Dickie
she's
Knowles.
a little too.
She
As old as
recognized
I
your
am.
sneakers,
Wait a
Brady.
minute.
Saw my sneakers.
As
She
old
fell
as
for
I
you,
am, I
Dickie.
think she's a little bit above my age.
You think?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
let's stop that fixing me up. Okay.
Well, Dickie, when we come on the next show, now that everyone knows you're single, that we can have.
We just opened up a box
we
right
can have
there.
a little match game right here.
I'm a single old fart.
All right, that was Dickie Knowles. Thanks, Dickie.
Johnny, thank you very much.
I
brother.
Thanks, my
appreciate it.
friend.
Yes, sir.
Good
Tommy
to see
Greene.
you. Good
All
to
right,
see you.
we are in hour 2 of Bet Parx Saturdays, PHLY. We're going to have Shawn Landetta. Come on, Shawn, we can come on up. Now, Dickie, make sure that when Shawn comes out, it doesn't have the same fate as that lady. So, all right. Thank you, Dickie Knowles. All right, we got Shawn Landetta here.
Yeah. He's saying hello to Dickie.
All right.
Call or text them and tell them we're together.
Which one did you call the 408?
They're having a good.
All right, we'll be back. It's a Dickie Knowles commercial right here.
Sorry about that.
That's all right.
Here we go.
All right. we
John,
got
Tommy, so great to see you guys. I
Good to see
appreciate
you,
you
man.
having me here.
Shawn, great
Hope
to
you guys
see
are
you.
well.
We'll get
Thanks
that
very
right.
much.
So, Shawn Landetta, who needs no explanation, but for those that need an explanation, first of all, it's perfect timing because we just played the Giants on Thursday night, so we will talk about that. But 22 seasons in the NFL. Now, that is, I think the average lifespan of a running back, I know, is 3 years, right? The average span of probably an NFL in general is, what do you think it is, 2 to 5 years?
It's around 4.
4, right?
The average for a punter is 6. Actually, long snappers have the average at 6.5. But
Is that the longest, like the longest tenure?
Yeah.
That's usually the longest career is the long snapper?
yeah, long snapper by a little bit. But the toughest part is they only keep one. I've talked to you this
Right,
before.
right.
There's only 32 jobs, and it's hard. You got to make that team every year. You got to stand next to 2 or 3 guys, and if you're not better, you're out. It's very simple. It's very tangible, and sometimes as an older player, even if you're better, if you're not that much better, they go with the young guy because he's still good enough to
Right.
win
And
with.
And the money.
He cost a third
Right,
of your
right.
salary, and he's 15 years younger. So I was very lucky that didn't hit me. That could have gotten me,
Right.
but it didn't. So I was very fortunate.
I just played a sport last night.
you look younger.
well, maybe that helps a little bit too.
I just played a
Thanks
sport
for
last
saying
night
that.
for the second time in my life called Padel. Padel. It's a racket sport that's coming out of South America. It's getting pretty big on the East Coast. And what is it's like racquetball? It's the closest thing to racquetball. You have a small tennis court with fiberglass or plexiglass walls that go pretty high, and it's like these foam paddles with a tennis ball, and you can crush it. I mean, you can absolutely. It's doubles. And I played with a guy, Ryan Winslow, who was a punter in the NFL, young kid, and his dad was a longtime punter in the NFL, and I think you know his dad.
Yeah, George Winslow.
George Winslow.
Yeah, George and Ryan are both from Philadelphia, and it's amazing, that father and son not only make it, but especially as a punter because they only keep one. But I've known those guys for a long time, and that's great that Ryan's doing that. Ryan was a great
Phenomenal.
athlete.
He's a phenomenal rackets player. I mean, again, I played this other sport called paddle tennis, platform tennis, padel. The kid's, you can tell he's just a really good athlete.
Yeah, no,
I think he's a good golfer, too.
Yeah, he played at Pitt. I remember when his dad called me and said he's got a full scholarship to Pitt. I'm like, that's a big deal. I mean, there's very few players in the country that get a full ride to a Division I school, and especially, one with an iconic history. He played very well at Pitt, and he did play in the NFL.
All right, so Shawn Landetta, 22 seasons. Again, that's amazing. You were named to the 80s and the 90s NFL All-Decade Team. Not too many people had that distinction. You have 2 Super Bowl rings you're not wearing.
Yeah, I never wear them. I mean, sometimes when I go places, I'll take them with me because I know people want to see them.
Right.
And it really brings me a lot of joy when I let people try them on because they get so excited, and it takes no effort for me to do it, but especially the kids, for them to try it on, because I know if I was a fan and I got to try on rings, that would be a big deal. So, yeah, I never wear them, especially down here in Philly, out of respect to my Philly
it was
brethren.
The Giants twice.
Yeah, I wish the Giants and Eagles weren't such competitors, because I'm like the only one that loves them both. I mean, I was at the game the other night, and as happy as I was for the Giants, because this is probably going to be 10 out of 12 losing seasons for them. This has been an awful run for them. I felt awful for the Eagles because, I love the Eagles. They have such a great team, and anyone that watches them knows something's not clicking with all that talent, and hopefully they'll get it fixed quick. But we also have to remember they're still 4-2.
Right.
It's not like they're 1-5, but that's tough for me.
All right, speaking of rings, Tommy, we just lost all three of us were very close with Bernie Perrant. Bernie loved the rings. He'd wear the rings, and he'd show it to you like that. First thing he would show you is like, how do you like my rings?
Yes.
With that accent.
Showing the kids, showing everybody. I mean, that was Bernie. Yeah,
that was Bernie.
He loved that, being able to have that show to people. Yeah. That was an icebreaker for him.
So, all right, Shawn, you were a 3-time All-Pro.
Actually, 7.
7 times?
Yeah.
All right, I got it. My info is wrong, but you were a 2-time USFL champion, Philadelphia Stars, right?
Yes, that's correct. Right here in Philly, that's where I started.
You're on the Giants all-time team. You're on the Eagles 75th anniversary team. You're on the Rams 10th anniversary team. You're on the USFL all-time team. I'd say it's a pretty good career, especially when, tell the listeners, I love this story. We've gone way back. I think we've known each other I know we met in New York.
Yeah, next year is going to be 25 years.
25 years when I met you in the Marriott? Was it the Marriott Hotel up in New York City? Yeah,
it was an event for 9/11. It was right after 9/11. I was playing here, and certainly you were with the Phillies. And, I can't believe next year is going to be 25 years.
25 years. So, but I love the story. We've had you on, I've had you on radio shows and different things. Tell the audience a story where, you were a soccer player, right? And you really weren't a football player. And there was a fortunate situation. Go ahead. Well, I'll let you tell the story.
Yeah, I mean, again, there's and so many people have this story of how you got started playing. And, basically, I went to get my senior picture taken my senior year in high school, and I was leaving. I just bumped into the football coaches by accident. I played football every day after school. We played tackle. We all did that growing up. Right. And baseball was and is still my favorite sport. Played soccer, basketball, but I always used to kick footballs for fun, and it's something I could do well. I don't know why. I just could, but I would just do it for fun. And the hey, coach, how you doing? He goes, we heard you can kick pretty good. Yeah, I like doing it for fun. He goes, we'd love you to come out for the team. And I remember I said, nah, I don't want to do it every day. It's just fun to play with my friends. And the other coach was the baseball coach. He's like, everybody on the team, all the baseball guys play. So when do you start? And that's how I got started playing. And through the years, I've thought, I went to a public school. We had about 600 in our senior class. It was a big school. And we were all given a certain time and day to get our picture taken. If I wasn't given that time or that day, or that guy had to take 2 more pictures, because when I got up and walked out, they were right there. Or if I'd have hit a red light, or after he said, we'd love to have you come. I said, nah, I just like doing it for fun. He said, well, okay, just thought we'd ask. See you later. I mean, right there at that moment, 50 things had to happen later, but my whole life changed. If I just would have said, nah, and I'd have kept walking. And it's just, and a lot of us have that story. You just never know what moment something's going to happen which leads to this, and this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if I didn't go to a wedding in 1993, when you're in the middle of a pennant run, I wouldn't be sitting here because I was in the insurance industry. I was living in Washington, D.C., and I met a guy, Dennis Mannion, who was vice president of marketing, and I got up and sang with the band, did a little Joe Cocker impression. And I think the guy thought I was nuts, and he asked me.
He got that right.
And he did. and he asked me if I had any sports marketing experience, and I said I marketed the sport of lacrosse throughout the country of England, which all I did was play and coach. But I made it seem like I did this branding and marketing and PR. And
that's what Brazer does.
He called out my BS, for lack of a better word. And next thing you know, little did I know, he was looking to hire somebody to be the time it wasn't director of fun games, but the person that would go out and be the
director of fun games,
marketing spokesperson, I guess. Go around and and then the rest is history. But if I didn't go to that wedding, I wouldn't be sitting here with and wouldn't have my two buddies over
Yeah.
here.
Yeah,
So,
I mean,
right,
so-
Tommy.
Director of Fun and Games, not a better title for a
Thank you,
better
Tommy.
man.
I agree with that 100%.
All right, so Shawn, but what happened to the kicker and the punter that was on the football team?
You know, it's interesting. The punter they had, he couldn't kick it very far, but he could kick a spiral every time, which is hard to do. So I could kick it real far, not always a spiral. So I stood next to him every day and literally watched how the ball hit his foot. And little by little, I started to get it right, you know, and that's kind of how I learned to kick a spiral, by watching it hit the guy's foot, and he could do it every time, you know, and it's just a matter of where
Sort
you
of like
lay
your
the
golf
ball.
swing now, right?
I wish that was the case. You know, awful. But, you know, that's how I kind of got better and better. And then after that, I was just lucky. You know, we all have things we can do.
Right.
Who knows why we can do it? I just kept getting better. And the only school to offer me a scholarship was Division II Towson University. And that's why I went there.
Yeah.
I wanted to go a big school, but there was pride involved. I wanted to say I got a scholarship, you know, coming out of high school. So I went there. And
was Dave Meggett on that team, or was he?
no, Dave came
was
five.
Yeah,
he
after
came
you,
5,
right.
6 years later. And ironically, both of us, I mean, two guys out of a Division II school, out of 32 teams, go to the same team.
Right.
Go to the Giants. You know, and you know, that was great because Dave was a great player and a great teammate.
You know, it reminds me too. Back to again the timing, the John Dorenbos story. Like that's a movie. That's a movie waiting to be happened. Do you know the whole John
No, I do.
Dorenbos?
I mean, all the way back, what he went through growing up, and
Right.
Then,
I mean,
then the story he told me when he went to the Saints, and you know, just a simple physical. You know how it is,
Yeah.
Tommy. A lot of time physicals, they look at you, everything, they check a few things, you sign off, and you go. And for whatever reason, he told me the doctor looked at him. He said he looked fine. He was great. He was going to play a game in 2 days, and he goes, you know, come and see me. I just want to check something. The littlest thing.
But if
that
he didn't get traded, they're probably not doing that full physical.
Correct. If he doesn't
Right.
go to New Orleans,
They're probably
they
just-
probably don't find
yeah.
that, and he ends probably not with us today.
Right.
But even when he went down there, you know, it's like, you know, I looked fine. I shouldn't have a symptom of anything. But what did you see to make me do that?
Right.
Which found this out, which found this, and ended up saving his life.
Well, and then the other thing too. Again, I think his. If I have the story correct, I think his father killed his mom when he was young, and then he lived with his grandmother. And I don't think they had a whole lot of money. And his best friend was a long snapper, and John wanted to get a scholarship to college, and so this is back then. If I have it right, he sent the tape of his best friend, who's a really good long snapper, around to colleges, and he got a hit. One team offered a position in scholarship, and so now John had to learn how to long snap, and he spent all summer with his best friend learning the long snap. He learned it, and then he gets to college and is so good at it, he obviously gets drafted. Then he has a long career with the Eagles, and then again he gets traded, which you said, and then the happenstance where thankfully he gets traded, which he probably didn't want to get traded.
No.
And then that saved his life, and then just makes that story even better is when he was a kid, his coping mechanism with dealing with the terrible tragedy that happened as a kid, he learned magic, and that was his coping mechanism. Well, he has to retire because obviously his heart condition, and he just decides, and he always did magic just for fun in the clubhouse and everything. He goes on America's Got Talent and wow the crowd and wow the audience because A, he's got the charisma, but B, he's got great magic. And next thing you know, he didn't win it, but he became so popular
Popular and
that
recognizable.
he gets basically a stand, or what do you call it, a residency in Vegas for his magic show. I mean, what a life! And again, what you said, it's that little thing that can just that can turn you.
Yeah,
that can,
so many of us, a lot of times we don't remember it, but almost all of us have that moment where because we went that day and this happens what led to this or it's really lucky. That's why a lot of people believe in the good Lord above sometimes, because you say to yourself, wow, how did that happen?
Right.
And that's why I'm here today.
All right, so you started in the USFL, correct?
Yes.
And so I remember the start. I was at the championship game, and you guys had a great team. I mean, you had great coaches and you had a great team. Talk about, you had Sam Mills, right?
I think we had 7 guys that went on to play 10 or more years in the NFL and all be all-stars. Right now in the NFL, is there one team that have 7 guys that played 10 years and they're all all-stars?
Right.
Maybe the Chiefs or something. It's just unbelievable, that group of talent we had.
Yeah, Chuck Fucina, right, was your quarterback.
He was. From Penn State. Chuck was the runner-up for the Heisman Trophy, at Penn State.
You had the running back from Carolina, Kelvin Bryant.
Another, Heisman Trophy runner-up, and he won a Super Bowl with the Redskins in 1987. Yeah. Irv Eatman played 13 years. Bart Oates was with me. Mike Johnson played 10 years for Cleveland. George Jameson played 13 years. Just an amazing group.
You had rocker Tommy Conwell's brother, Joe Conwell, as the offensive lineman.
Yeah, Joe was our lineman, and Joe then went to play for the Eagles a little bit. We had 4 coaches on our team that became NFL coaches.
Jim Mora.
4 out of 1 USFL team. How does that happen?
Who were the 4 coaches?
It was Jim Mora. It was Vince Tobin. Dom Capers was the first Carolina Panthers coach, and then later Houston. And then just for a couple years, it's amazing he's still around, the Eagles' current defensive coordinator, Vic Fangio.
Oh, is that right?
Vic started with us.
I did not know that.
Control guy.
So he was young.
And, very young, and he was the head coach in Denver for a couple of years. Yeah. And we also had Terry Bradway, Bill Koharic, Carl Peterson. Those 3 guys became NFL GMs.
Wow.
So, think of all of this from one USFL team, just one.
Well, in the league, too. You had Herschel Walker. You had some big, Reggie White.
Steve Young and Reggie White, Jim Kelly, so many guys. Gary Zimmerman's in the NFL Hall of Fame. Just unbelievable talent back then. Because back in 1983, the average salary in the NFL was about $70,000.
Okay.
It had taken about 60 years to get there. The average salary in the USFL was like 40, so it wasn't that far behind, and we could afford to pay our star players as much as the NFL were paying them. In the 3 years we were around, the average NFL salary went from $7 to $230, because there was another league. There was no free agency. We'll never know the hundreds of millions of dollars that the great players did make. Lawrence Taylor, Joe Montana. You couldn't go to the highest bidder. You had to take what they offered you.
Right.
Now there was another league that literally could triple your salary. And what that league did for the NFL players, every former NFL player should send those owners a Christmas card.
Right.
Because it tripled what it took 60 years to get to. Then when the USFL went out, it stayed the same again. And we went on strike because it probably would have stayed the same for another 60 years. We went on strike. It took 6 years, and finally, in 1993, we got free agency. Yeah. But all those guys before 93, all those guys in the Hall of Fame, they were crushed financially because you couldn't go to the highest bidder. Can you imagine what some of those great players would have gotten back then? And then after 93,
just like back in ours, back in our day too. Hank Aaron and all those guys.
Oh, what would those guys? Willie Mays, Hank Aaron, Sandy Koufax, go down the list. The greatest players in baseball. If there was free agency, imagine what they'd have gotten if the other 25, 30 teams could have bid on.
That's why we struck and did what we felt was
you guys went on strike, absolutely, and just like you personally, there was suffering that we dealt with. But it was all for the good of not only of us, but the guys in the future. Yeah. And baseball's done an unbelievable job. The way you guys are taken care of and everything. And although I hope I'm wrong and you would know more about this, because, again, I love baseball. It's my favorite sport, and I know a lot of people in the game. Did I hear there's a chance that maybe after next season?
Well, the labor agreement's up after next year. We'll see. We hope it gets, for all of our sakes, it gets resolved. Yeah. We were talking about earlier with Dickie Knowles. Obviously Kirk Ring, he had a really tough moment. But you played in 2 Super Bowls. Talk about the pressure when you're. Tommy and I were talking earlier. When you're a punter, right? You got fast guys coming in, right? Eagles won.
And you're exposed.
Your leg is up high, right? You got to catch the ball first thing. Right, then you've got to do your normal. But then with guys coming in, what is that like? What is your mind frame? Forget the Super Bowl, just in general. But then also talk about how that changes when you're in the game like the Super Bowl.
Well, most of us will tell you just have to get to a point where you're kind of invisible to that. You got to watch the snap, catch, and trust your protection. As Tommy said, the way we're exposed and vulnerable, it's why we get injured a lot of times. We get hit. I didn't get hit very much throughout my career, but that being said, I had a torn calf, broken wrist, L4 and L5 herniated, an ACL, broken fingers.
Is that all from collisions? All from
collisions, from being hit when I was in the air or this or that or, different things. And, it's just very difficult. You have to have total trust in your protection because if you're going to look up and worry about the rush, you'll never be able to do it. But speaking about Kerkering, it's such a shame because most of the time he'll field that ball and throw to first. But when he fumbled it a little bit, he picked it up, and in his mind, in that split second,
he probably didn't think he had time to go to first.
In that split second, he felt that his best play was at home. And unfortunately, when he looked up, he didn't see Real Muto, who was pointing, and maybe he'd have got him at first. Kind of seems like he would.
He would have.
But again, he would have. But, if at that split second, in that moment, the ball's in front of him, he picks it up, and he looks up, and JT's so close.
Right.
He's thinking that's my best play.
Right,
and it's just a shame that had to happen like that. Just a shame.
Yeah. I got a question for you. I mean, I know back in the day, how was it playing, with on the same team? And I'm taking it that you did play in his ear with Lawrence Taylor.
Lawrence was.
You played in a golf tournament.
Oh,
a couple golf tournaments with Lawrence.
And he played at North Carolina.
Yeah, he did.
So
he did play
I grew up sort of watching.
Yeah, and he loved his days in North Carolina. We every time I see him, every once in a while we'll talk about that because he was there. He felt it a great time. Loved his teammates But Lawrence was a great teammate, number one. Everybody knows what a great player he was. But playing with him, it was kind of interesting because, the NFL is the best of the best, and there's a lot of stars. But he was such a big star, that it's almost like he was like a celebrity and an icon, because in warm-ups, when we'd play other teams before the game, you'd see other guys on the other team just looking at him.
Right.
Like, oh, my God, there's LT. And
feared. I mean, it's like a Dick Butkus fear.
Yeah, or I can remember – we'd be going to an appearance somewhere, and I look like a regular guy. No one thinks I'm a player, and people would run up and push me out of the way, like, get the hell out of the way. They had no idea I'm a player. They wanted to say hi to him. But and a generous guy, very generous guy. He was at the game the other night. It was good to see him. But obviously we know what a great player he was, but a great
athlete,
teammate.
Man.
Yeah, great player, great athlete. Probably could make a living as a comedian. He is so quick mentally.
Right?
He is so quick.
He's
just the way he talks, he is just so funny. But, I'm just so glad I was a teammate with him. Great experiences, and it's great that I still get to see him a lot. He lives in Florida, but he's in North Jersey and New York quite often.
Quarterback wanted to know where he was at all the time, right? The opposing quarterback.
Yeah. I remember I talked to some coaches that felt that back there in the 80s and early 90s, they felt one of the major reasons that the whole NFC East was so terrific. Washington, they won 3 Super Bowls. We won 2. The Eagles were always in it. The Cowboys were real good. They felt that division was so good because all the other teams spent so much time trying to block Taylor or draft players or come up with things to handle him that helped them with the rest of the league at the same time. So in our attempt to try, we got to face this guy twice.
Right.
Joe Gibbs would talk about it. I mean, they used to have, I think, 1 day a week all year that they would, put towards Lawrence, whether we were playing him or not. And how much did that help them playing other teams? Trying to get ready for him. But just a great teammate. You played golf with him. If you ever see him, please send my regards. Wonderful guy.
And before Tommy does a reading, next time you see Lawrence Taylor, LT, you got to ask him about what he thinks of Belichick so far, his stint with UNC. Because obviously he went to UNC, and it's interesting to see, this experiment. Would it work in college? Belichick's an old school NFL guy. Does that old school NFL guy translate to the current, NIL college world?
Well, I think you have to give him one more year because, he's gotten some players in, but I think after this year, he'll really be able to get another tremendous class of player. And with NIL, I think they'll be successful. I mean, I don't know that, but I really do because he's a terrific coach.
I'm a little thankful, and I don't know the gentleman, but the GM is Mike Lombardi. And Mike Lombardi, they looked at Chandler Morris, who was a quarterback out of North Texas. And Lombardi said, no, it's so. Looked at him, basically said, he's not our guy. Do you know how hard it is to be an NFL quarterback? That guy's not our guy. They want to recruit guys that have a chance to. Well, thankfully, they said no, and my Virginia Cavaliers picked the kid up, and now Chandler Morris has led UVA to an upset against Florida State, and then an upset in overtime last week against Louisville. So thankfully, the Carolina didn't like the guy. We like the guy, and
I've known Mike Lombardi for a long time, and he's had a lot of those mistakes.
Okay.
I mean, the first thing he does halfway through the season, when Doug Peterson is the coach of the Eagles, and they win the Super Bowl, he comes out and said Doug Peterson is the worst coach in the NFL. He's not prepared.
That's right.
He
I do remember
couldn't have been more wrong.
Right.
At the end of the year, you wish there was a price you had to pay for saying such awful things.
Right, well, you got rewarded with a GM job at Carolina.
And it's the same thing. Here you go again. In a nice evaluation, Mike, the guy you said couldn't play can play.
Can play.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Well, again, I'm not going to complain because it helps my team. So, Tommy, what do we got?
All right, guys. Hey, Parx Casino. Did you know it's Pennsylvania's #1 casino? They have it all. Excitement, headline entertainment, and a collection of award-winning restaurants like the Liberty Bell Gastropub and Beer Garden, the Parx Grill Steakhouse, the Bamboo Noodle House, Chicky and Pete's. Parx Casino, this is how you win. Tickets on sale for these headliners are December 5th, Straight No Chaser. December 6th, the comedian Ken Jeong. I always like that guy's funny, dude.
Really funny. You know who he is? He's the guy, The Hangover.
Yes, yes. He is very funny.
Yeah.
December 12th, Get the Lead Out, a Led Zeppelin tribute. That's Brazier. November 26th, comedian Joey Diaz. October 25th, Almost Queen. That's a good one. The tribute band there. That's awesome. November 21st, Air Supply. November 22nd, comedian Brian Regan. And ParxCasino.com to buy you tickets for all the shows. Parx Casino, this is how you win. You must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
We just had at game, the game on Monday. Yes, right? No, the game, I'm losing
Monday.
track. Thursday. The game on... No, the game on Thursday.
Brazier, you getting old?
I am getting old. We had Shane Gillis and Miles Teller this is game Monday. This is game 2.
Yeah.
Monday we had Shane Gillis and Miles Teller. Miles Teller is our, basically the Phillies celebrity, right? I met him 14 years ago, and someone down at spring training, someone said, "Hey, there's a up and coming actor out of Philadelphia, lives in Florida. Can you get tickets?" So I hooked him up, met his dad, and then he just kept getting bigger roles, and now he's kind of our, the Eagles have
Bradley Cooper.
Right, the Eagles have Bradley Cooper, and they've got Mike Trout, right? The Sixers they had Will Smith, they have Meek Mill, they've got, their guys. I'm probably missing somebody. The Flyers had David Boreanaz, who's a big hockey fan who was in Bones and Navy SEALs. And then Miles Teller's become, and we have Rob McElhenney and some others. But Miles comes to all the playoff games, sits in the in the CP ranking club. So he brought Shane Gillis, the comedian. So I told him a couple jokes, which you should never tell jokes to a comedian because that's their job, right? But whatever, fine. He told me a couple ones that I cannot repeat on the air. But the funny thing is, at the end of the game, we are...
You got the collection of jokes, by the way. You got a collage, man. It's like 1 million of them.
At the end of the game, we are in the lobby, the Phillies lobby, waiting for the car service to come in. And so we had like 15 minutes to kill, and I'm with my wife and daughter. And have we ever done with my wife and daughter the mind trick we do?
No.
We do a mind trick. All right, we'll have to do it.
You got to see this.
So we do a mind trick. So we did a mind trick for Miles and Shane. Well, we were guessing like Shane would give me his dog's name, and my wife and daughter would be away. They'd come back, and within 30 seconds, they're going to get the dog's name. And Shane's like, well, they can read lips. I said, fine, I'll turn around. I turn around, and then they're like, it's your hands. I said, well, I talk with my hands, but I can put my hands in my pocket. So I did all that. Then Jill said, it's his feet. You're not watching his feet. Miles Teller's watching my feet. Same thing, we got it. So he's blown away, and we ended up walking out of there, and I took him to their car. We're walking out of there, and my wife said, God, I really liked Miles Teller's friend. He was really nice. I said, his friend? Who? Shane Gillis? I said, yeah, am I supposed to know who that guy is? I said, yeah, he's one of the top comedians, out there, right? So, and I think I was able to, I'm going to tell him the trick, I think. Yes, I will tell him the trick if he comes on the podcast that I do. So it worked out pretty well. We're going to have Shane Gillis, but I'm not going to be able to tell, I guess we're going to.
Don't give away this trade secrets, Blazer.
That's a great one. You need to hold on to that.
You think I need to hold on to it?
Absolutely.
Well, I need to get him on the podcast, too, though.
Well, he'll come on, but I don't know anybody can do that. I'm listening to how you're talking. I'm thinking, how did he do that?
It's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
Gotta be.
Hey, tell him who you just do
Larry
first.
Anderson. Larry Anderson. Yeah, Larry. We every time we have a celebrity come to a Phillies game.
They call it snaps.
Every time a celebrity comes to a Phillies game, I'll give him the tour most times, and I'll bring him up the elevator, and while we're on the elevator, I'll say, hey, you're about to meet this guy, Larry Anderson, who played for the Phillies longtime broadcaster, but he can read my mind. Give me your dog's name, your first concert, your mom's name, your whatever. And we get up there, we go in the room, they're watching me the whole time. And L.A., do you know, we did with Renee Zellweger. We did it with Uncle Junior from The Sopranos. We did it with all these random celebrities, and it was pretty funny.
Yeah, and they're amazed every time.
But back to football. So let's talk about the Eagles. You were at the game Thursday. You're on both teams, the Giants and the Eagles. I know there's some, when your Eagles are almost victims of their success. You win the Super Bowl, and everyone wants to poach your coaches, your offensive coordinators, your different things. And also because of guys, teammates having success, they get hired away, whether it's Hassan Reddick or some other guys, right? Milton Williams, you get guys. So teams poach players, team poach coordinators. We're dealing with a new offensive coordinator. I think it's like the fourth or fifth offensive coordinator that Jalen Hurts has had, right? You've had some injuries. Landon Dickerson, Lane Johnson's not 100%. You've had guys sub it in. I mean, it's going to be one of those things that once they get cohesive, once they get a little more familiar with the offensive coordinator, that things can turn around with the Eagles?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, they're 4-2, and I hope the competition committee, just in the name of getting it right, because it's so hard to do, I hope they allow moving forward teams to be able to challenge one or two penalties, because last week that loss to Denver, a 1-point loss, we all saw it for whatever reason at that split second. That referee, whether it was the angle he felt that the tight end wasn't interfered with, and he clearly was.
Right.
And that's a game-changing call.
Yes.
If that's called, they are right there, and there's a really good chance if they don't score a touchdown, they kick a field goal. So, I mean, if that would happen, they'd have been 5-0, but they're 4-2 now.
Yeah.
But because the expectation is so high, the thought is, if you listen to the way they talk about the team, you think they're 1-5.
Right.
Because they're expected to win all the time. I think before the Denver game, what did they win? Like 18, 19, 20 straight regular season games?
Right. Jalen Hurts had won, I think 18 straight when he was starting. When he played the whole game.
80% of the teams have never done that in their history.
Right.
They're just so good, and the expectation is so high that, it's not meant as disrespect, but quite often fans and press, it's disrespect to the other team. Like, they're not allowed to win. Yeah. You're not allowed to win. They're professionals too. You know what I'm saying? And you love your team so much that you don't want to know nothing. We want to win, and if you don't win, you're awful. But that's because they care so much. That's why they feel that way.
What are you seeing in the offense of the Eagles when you watch it that's sort of missing? Or what's happening? Is the line beat up too much?
It's a few of the things he said. First of all, they lost like 8 or 9 players. Now, just because they all weren't Saquon Barkley doesn't mean they all weren't good. And collectively, that's a big loss, okay? Number 2, the best running back in the world they have, and for whatever reason, I think he had 6 or 7 carries Sunday, and the week before, like 10 or 12. They have their reason, but I can't understand how he does not get the ball 15, 20 times a game. Barkley just hasn't been the threat he's been last year, and I don't think it's because he's regressed. He just hasn't gotten the ball that much. The other night,
is that protecting? Is that
the line?
Well,
is something going on with the line?
Or is it protecting him because he carried the ball so much last year?
I don't think it's that. I think the other night, the first play, he gains 18 yards on a rush. Then he gains again, and it's like, wow, maybe they're going to run the ball more. But it's just something's just a little out of kilter. It's a little thing, but it can become more than that when you have one of your best receivers, even if he doesn't mean it, saying I'm not getting the ball enough or there's problems, so it's like, or you created something, the old mountain out of a molehill. Is there something that's really this much of a problem that you're creating this much of a problem? But again, the Eagles, I think they said this is the first time in NFL history a team's going to have 10 opponents that were in the playoffs the year before.
Right. Well, that's when you win, obviously you're going to get the toughest schedule.
You're playing 10 playoff teams, and that doesn't even count Dallas, who didn't make it last year. But they're 4-2, and let's see what happens. The expectation is that they win all the time, and if they don't, but as Tommy said, there's no doubt.
Yeah.
There's some things that aren't clicking, and we saw it more in the last 2 games because of all that talent on offense. I mean, what team has that running back, those 2 receivers, the tight end, the quarterback, and the line? Almost nobody. But let's see what happens. I think they'll get it straightened out.
Yeah, and again, Mitchell went down with an injury, and they're a little banged up. Nakobe Dean's not back to full speed. So they've got some things.
And that big guy in the middle was out. We thought he was going to play. Was it Carter that didn't play?
Jalen Carter.
I don't think he played the other night, or Davis. I'm not sure, but yeah, I think they'll be fine. But again, if they'd have won that Denver game, which there was sure, this one almost could be looked at as an aberration because the Giants, who I don't think have near the talent that the Eagles do. I mean, they were so dominant. It wasn't even a close game. That's what was surprising. I mean, even the Giant fans in the stands, as happy as they were that their team was winning, a lot of them were like, wow, something's wrong with the Eagles here because they've just been so good and so overpowering.
I think it's like,
what about your running back? I was noticing your running back.
Scatterboo.
He's a cool. He seems just the vibe off him is pretty cool, dude.
Go watch clips of him in high school and college because he's like a linebacker playing running back.
Yeah, I mean, this guy already up there, he's like a folk hero. I mean, he's going to be an idol because, he's everything everybody wants. That tough, old school,
John
almost
type
underdog guy. I think the fact he's 5'7" helps him.
Yeah.
Because he's so low, it's hard to get leverage. But he was a great runner at Arizona State.
Very good.
I'm surprised he lasted till the 4th round. And again, a lot of times, because you look at your height and you're thinking, well, can he do it at this level? Almost never does any team in one draft, that draft in April, 6 months later, 2 of those starters are playing and playing great. And the most important position is quarterback. Giants have been waiting 10 years for a franchise quarterback. They've tried. It hasn't worked. It's only 3 games, but it looks like the guy can do it. The young man, Jackson Dart from Mississippi, it looks like he can do it. But Scatterbo, he's running like a guy who was a first-round pick out of Alabama or Oklahoma. I mean, he's terrific.
Well, I think with Jackson Dart, I'm an Ole Miss. We went to an Ole Miss game a couple years ago. I do like Ole Miss, and I watched him there. Jackson Dart, it's almost like, to me, and I'm going to put a baseball analogy, that sometimes you get a young pitcher that comes in, and you're like, oh, good, we're facing this guy. I won't say Paul Skeens, but if somebody comes in who's a very good college pitcher, we're like, all right, he's a college pitcher, he's a rookie, we should get to him. Well, the disadvantage to the hitters is they don't have the film on him.
They don't see him.
They don't see him a lot. They don't, they're going to look at stuff, and they have information, but they're not going to see as much, so they're not as prepared, and it takes a while to kind of get the feeling for what he likes to throw, right? Whereas guys you've seen for a lot, you know what they're going to throw, you know what their out pitch is, you know what their go-to pitches
are. Yeah.
Right, tendencies. Jackson Dart, same thing, is a unique quarterback where, like a lot of young guys, they're running. I mean, he's got to be careful because and I don't care because I'm obviously an Eagles fan, not a Giants fan, but he plays reckless. Like he took on linebackers, and dropping his shoulder.
No,
and he's going to get hurt one of these days. But at the same time, that his style of play, again, they don't have tons of tape on him, and he's unpredictable, and he's doing things that guys usually they'll slide. And he's basically running through, dropping his shoulder.
Hurts did that the first couple of years.
He
was running, and he's like a running back.
Sometimes you have an advantage as an offense because, again, it's that unpredictability.
Yeah, I mean, it appears that he runs better than people thought. So there's been a bunch of called runs for him, which usually in the NFL you don't see quarterbacks having a lot of called runs. Lamar Jackson's going to have it, Hurts going to have it, but a lot of times, it's going to happen when they're flushed out of the pocket,
right,
or they have the green light where if they drop back and they see something, they go. But you're 100% right. It's almost like not if, but when. I know the other night he was down for about a minute,
came out,
and everybody in the stands were like, "Oh my God!" You're thinking, "Is this a season-ending injury?"
Right.
And at some point in this league, as a quarterback, you're going to get hit,
right?
And you're going to get
big
hurt.
And athletic they are.
And he's a football player too. He knows that, but in that heat of the moment, it's not a run. But he knows he can run 13 yards.
Right.
He's going to do it.
It's a young hubris.
Yes. but he has to slide, as you mentioned, Tom.
Yeah.
He's got to try to go this way because he's a guy that a lot of times wants to go forward and try and get a few more yards, but there's a price to pay for that. But
yes, there is a heavy price to pay for that.
And he's, again, everybody up there is so thrilled because, again, the Giants, this is one of the worst 10-year stretches of their history, and they've been trying to get a quarterback since Eli Manning, a franchise type, and it looks like they got him.
And if you're a Giants fan too, you got to hate the Eagles in the last 20 years, right? I mean, 30 years. We have 3 Miracle of the Meadowlands, right?
And the winning since the year 2000. I mean, you probably have 22 out of 25 winning seasons. Probably been to the playoffs a dozen times. You've been in 4 Super Bowls. I mean, the success has been unbelievable. And, for the Eagles, there may not be 3 or 4 teams in the whole NFL can say what they've done. And, again, if you're the Giants, you're looking 100 miles south and like, geez, that's how we want to be.
Can I tell you about the first, I don't know if I ever told it. Tommy, I think I told you the story, but the first Miracle of the Meadowlands, right? So my dad had season tickets. We were up in the 500 level in one of the end zones. And my oldest brother was the best athlete in the family, but he didn't really follow sports, still doesn't really follow pro sports to this day. My brother, Dollar Bill, was a contrarian. So, of course, he was like a Cowboys fan at some point. He's embarrassed to admit now, but, he'd do that. And so I was the one that my dad took me to all the games. And we're talking when Mike Barilla was a quarterback, Roman Gabriel, right, and then the Ron Jaworski era. But for the long time, for that Mike Barilla, Roman Gabriel era, Eagles were not good. And I'd go to these games, and I'd be the only kid. And Jim Bakken would kick a field goal with 3 seconds left, and I'd go home all bummed out, right? So in 1978, Eagles haven't made the playoffs since I was a fan. So they have a game against the Giants, and whoever won that game was going to go to the playoffs, right? For the first time for both teams, I think. So I'm watching my dad, and the end of the game, the Eagles turn the ball over, and game's over, right? And I'm, I'm 13 years old, and I'm thinking the game's over. I'm super upset. You remember how big of a fan you are at 13 years old? And I remember I said that blanking Eagles, blank. And I knew I was going to get in trouble when these words came out of my mouth. And sure enough, my dad turns the TV off, says, get out there and rake every single leaf. If I come out there, I see one leaf, you're going back out there and doing something else, right? So I'm like, fine. I get out there and I'm raking for like 2 hours, right? TV's off. I come back 2 hours later, and my buddy Pete Mashton's like, oh, my God, how about that game? I said, what game? That game stunk. The Eagles lost. They're not making the playoffs. He said, what do you mean? You didn't watch the end of the game? I said, no, what happened? He goes, they won. The Giants fumbled the ball, and the Eagles picked it up, went to the end zone, and I missed, and I made my dad miss the greatest play, the greatest comeback in Eagles history because of my temper.
Bleep, 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 bleep. Oh, I've seen that temper, too. He still got it.
Wow.
Can you believe that?
No, that's crazy. You didn't see that.
Sorry, Dad. All right, Tom, what do we got?
Oh, let me get it real quick. All right, guys. Parx Casino is the go-to spot for nightlife and entertainment, guys. Action, excitement, headline, national entertainment at the Excite Center. Plus sing-along brunches, Latin nights, country line dancing, and comedy night. The country line dancing is getting me, Brazer. You like that stuff?
You said Dickie Knowles first. I'm a big country music guy. I've never country line danced, but
happy hour at the Liberty Bell Gastropub and Beer Garden, plus Sixers and watch parties, the Bamboo Noodle House, the Parx Grill, the best cover bands, the Betts Parx Sportsbook, a beautiful poker room. Pennsylvania's #1 casino, Parx Casino. This is how you win. You must be 21. Gambling problem? 1-800-GAMBLER.
All right, Shawn. Tommy mentioned the Excite Center, but really about an hour ago, the Excite Center was right here because you know what happened?
No, I don't.
So we were doing our show. I must have been looking this way, and next thing you know, I feel someone crash into my shoulder.
Oh, you missed that.
I missed someone crash into my shoulder, and I see this. I thought it was like...
We thought like the Fanatic was here or something.
I thought it was a Fanatic. I thought maybe I'm getting attacked. This is like... I don't know why somebody would attack me. Maybe they're so upset at the Phillies that they attacked me. But some lady was coming around here, And I'm not sure. I still don't really know what happened. But next thing you know,
I think she tripped over the stand.
But she was coming in here. Next thing you know, she fell into Dickie's while we're doing a live show. Hit Dickie's shoulder, then hit my shoulder, and she falls over here. For about 5 seconds, my brain's trying to figure out what is taking place, and so it's a good thing we have.
So are you guys going to have to go on IR for that?
No, I'm
no?
good.
I thought
No.
she was falling for Brazier. She liked you so
Well,
much.
no, she was
go.
falling for Dickie Knowles because Dickie Knowles is single. So.
Oh, okay.
Yes, that's what we were saying.
No, that's
so. Dickie
wow,
will
how
be the
about
next.
that?
Dickie will be the next Golden Bachelor. What do you think, Tommy?
That could be a possibility.
And you know what? He would be a great one.
Yes, he would too.
He would be a great one. That would be great to see.
It would be.
All right. So, Shawn, also, what are you doing these days? I know you do a lot for both organizations.
Yeah, I'm very lucky. Again, I wish they weren't such competitors because, I'm probably the only one that loves them both. But both of them are very good with their alumni. They'll use us for events. The football season's so quick and short. So many of my friends in baseball, I tell them, man, it is so great, that basically from spring training till the beginning of October, you can do things during the season because there's 81 home games.
Yep.
There's so many things you can do. But in football, there's only really 8 days they have at home.
Yep.
So I try to get stuff booked for each home game because I'm going to watch anyway. Sometimes away games, we'll try to do a watch party where we'll go watch the game with the fans and stuff. And certainly they have things available with their sponsors. But that's kind of enough to keep me busy. Other than that, it's amazing. Even though I don't technically have a job, every day there's 10, 15 things to do. So you're not just sitting around doing nothing. And I like to travel too. For all the years I played, I have so many friends. I go to Charlotte once or twice a year. I go to Atlanta. 4 of my 6 years with the Rams were in St. Louis. 2 were in L.A. I was just out there. It's just nice to go around and see my buddies and see the country just for 4 or 5 days. And, I like doing that. So that kind of keeps me
You
busy.
mentioned the Rams. We didn't even get to that. We mentioned your time with the Giants. Obviously, you played for the Eagles a couple stints. But the Rams, you played under Dick Vermeil.
No, I just missed Dick.
Missed Dick Vermeil. That's
I
right.
just missed him. Yeah, it would have been great to play for Dick because he was such an iconic coach here, and
So who was your coach
He did
then?
a great job. My coach at the Rams was Chuck Knox.
Chuck Knox,
the old school guy way back.
Right.
And then Rich Brooks for a couple years. But I just missed Dick Vermeil. But what's amazing? He grew up in California. He loved, he has his winery out there, but he loved his years here so much that even though he won a Super Bowl in St. Louis,
right,
he lives in the Philadelphia area,
right?
Because he just loved his time here and he loves the atmosphere here, and I still see him around. Loves it here.
And you do still stay in touch with a lot of the Eagles guys that you play with, right?
Yeah, I do.
Throughout the years.
It's amazing. All cities are good to their players, but that being said, there's 4 or 5 that are clearly better than others, and Philly's one of them. This is an area, Philly, New Jersey. There's not many cities where players stay in the city they played more than here.
Right.
Because the fans are great, the opportunity's great. The teams in Philly are very historic. I mean, the Phillies go back probably 140 years. The Eagles have been around, the Sixers, the Flyers. It's such an amazing sports town, but everything where it's located, the passion of the fans. There's so many former players that live in this area.
Yeah.
I'm one of them, and I understand why.
Right, because you guys are in Baltimore and North Carolina, and you guys have chosen to make Philadelphia your home.
Yeah.
And I've always loved, like the Flyers. And granted, when you do win, it helps because,
there's no doubt.
Because you want to be here, it's job opportunities, and,
Yeah.
obviously you're comfortable and everyone knows who you are. So when the Flyers won their Stanley Cups in 74, 75, a lot of those guys pretty much
almost all
of them lived in the area. The Phillies guys from that 80 team, there's a lot of guys, tons of guys that live in the
and
the area.
93 team went to the World Series. There's a lot of those
93
guys.
A lot of guys stayed and then throughout. But you're right. And it's interesting as players are getting more and more money and they have a little more freedom to kind of, really, that 08 team is when they really started making money. But, even though Ryan Howard lives in Atlanta, he still comes back to Philadelphia a lot. Shane Victorino lives in Vegas and does charities in his hometown or home state of Hawaii. But he comes up here a lot. Cole Hamels, is now our announcer, but he's got a place in Tennessee, but he is up here a lot. So J-Roll, same thing. They all have other places, but you see them in Philly all the time.
Well, yeah. Anytime you win, it's a big deal, but especially in a market like this. You win in a market like this with a team that's a historic team, it goes a little more, and it doesn't surprise me at all that they still come back.
And the punting position, too. How has it changed? Because it seems more and more punters these days are more the Australian, whether they are Australian or kind of the Australian kind of rules football type punting, as opposed to when you were playing, it was the traditional, straight up.
In the mid-'90s, some of the Australian guys came over and started to kick the ball differently, and we didn't realize you could kick it as high and far, end over end is the way we do it. We thought aerodynamically the spiral would go higher and farther, and that's not true. And also, you can hit more of the ball. The spiral, it's like a baseball bat on a baseball. The difference between a home run and a pop up to second base is this much.
Yeah.
When you're going to hit a spiral, the difference between the 38 or the 52-yard part is this much. But when you drop the football like this and you have the whole side, there's more to hit it with, and it's become very, very successful. And a lot of the American kids in the last 30 years now, even
they're
in
adopting
college,
that style?
They are adopting that style.
Right.
They are.
Who are some of the, throughout football, who are some of the, your favorite, you mentioned Lawrence Taylor, who are some of your favorite teammates? Again, you played for multiple teams. Who are some of the most colorful teammates, some of your close teammates, guys that just, that if they were our guests, it would be so much fun to have them on as a guest?
Yeah, well, I'll try to name guys people would be familiar with. My quarterback up there, Phil Simms, was great.
And obviously he's got a media
he's
career.
Tougher than nails, outstanding quarterback. Another guy that's very friendly. He had not one, he had two sons playing in the NFL. Two. His son Chris played 8 years as a quarterback for Tampa, and his son Matt was a backup for 2 or 3 teams. He almost got a ring. He was with that Atlanta team that was winning 28-3 against New England and ended up losing, but he had 2 sons playing in the NFL, but Phil was a great teammate. It was so great for me to be teammates very briefly with Reggie White in Green Bay.
Right.
Not here.
Right.
And, that's another great story of how I got here when I think about that. I'm with the Packers in 98. We have a good year. I agree I'm going to come back. And at the end of the year, all the coaches leave. Mike Holmgren, everyone to Seattle. So I don't know who's going to be the coach. And I'm an older player. I'm the 38. Out of nowhere, our quarterback coach in Green Bay, who wasn't the hot coordinator, no one had ever heard of him. He gets the job in Philly, Andy Reid.
And he came in with a lot. Didn't he come in with very organized?
Oh, yeah.
He had
blew
the
him
binders
away.
of everything.
Again, he wasn't the hot coordinator.
Right.
So as soon as I saw that, I just called him up to congratulate him. Hey, because even though we were there a year, you talk every day, you see everybody every day, and you have a good relationship. Like, Andy, congrats on the job in Philly. He's like, thanks. He's like,
and could you see that? Like, could you? I know it's hard to see because he obviously never was a coach. But when he was named the coach, were you at the time going, I could see that. He could be a really good coach.
I didn't really see that. But one thing we all knew in Green Bay, because Green Bay is such a small town, that no matter where you go, like after practice, anything, the supermarket, this, that, this, inadvertently you're going to drive by Lambeau Field. And the parking lot, where the coaches parked, Andy had this old, it looked like the wood side station wagon from 1983.
We had
what
one of
was
those
the
way
name
back
of the
when.
movie that was in? Was Chevy Chase?
Vacation. Right.
That was Andy's car because he had 5 kids.
Right. Yeah.
And you could see it above the thing. So if you drove by there at 5 in the morning or at 12 at night, you'd see Andy's car there. So it's like, man, Andy's there all the time. I don't know that anyone thought he'd be the coach that he became, but when I called him up and he's like, well, what are you doing? I said, well, I was going to go back, but I'm not sure now. And he said the greatest words ever. He said, would you be interested in competing for the job here? And I grew up in Baltimore. I was living in New York. I almost jumped through the phone because you still had to make the team.
And who was the punter at the time?
The punter was Tommy Hutton.
Okay.
Now, Tommy ended up going to the Dolphins in free agency. So they had signed a punter out of the Canadian League, Tony Martino, who was outstanding. And Tony ended up going back and playing another 5 years in Canada, but he was there with me and I think one other guy. But just the fact that he'd seen me practice every day and he kind of knew me a little bit, and maybe the most important thing was he was going to go with the best player. If you were a free agent, first-round pick, 20 years old or 50, he was going with the best player. And that doesn't always happen, and it's understandable because of the money and everything else. So, again, you had to make the team, but I was very fortunate that, I played well enough. And I never get my 5 years here if I don't make that phone call to Andy. So I love Andy extra. Again, I had to make the team, but I had to get the opportunity because so many players in every sport that are older could play another year, 2 or 3, but you don't get the opportunity.
Yeah, they want
and
to
I was
replace you with-
just so lucky, and so I love Andy extra.
And then who are your close friends on the Eagles when you played?
Well, usually
I mean, do the special teams guys hang out?
Usually they do. David Akers, we were teammates for 5 years, the great kicker. Mike Bartram, our great long snapper.
Yeah.
And the quarterbacks, usually it's numerically in the locker room. So Donovan McNabb was number 5. I was number 7. No, Akers was 2. Donovan was 5. I was 7. Coy Detmer was 10. I think A.J. Feely was after that. And then the running backs. So it's almost like the guys you're around a lot.
Right.
You talk a little bit more or whatever. But I got along with everybody. I always, on every team, love talking to everybody. Love walking around the locker room, especially being older.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because I could see, they'd kind of, I'm 42 years old. It's a funny story when I went to play for the Rams the second time. When I walked in the locker room, a couple guys were sitting at their locker. I walked by and I'm like, hey, what's up, guys? The guys go, hey, Coach, how you doing?
All right.
I walked over to my locker, got changed. I'm watching, and I can see them kind of looking over. And I walked back, and I put my hand on their shoulder. I'm like, you guys, the rest of the year, you refer to me as Coach.
Right.
One of them was my long snapper, Chris Massey, and I forget the other guy. But, the Eagles team we was on, Andy came in, and we got that thing turned around.
Yeah.
Donovan worked out. We had Deuce Staley. We had Brian Westbrook. Hugh Douglas was great. We had Trotter. Our defensive backs, we had Dawkins, Bobby Taylor, that crew. Then we had Lito Shepherd and Brown come in, and that's when the winning started. Got it turned around real quick. And
look at Andy Reid, the influence Andy Reid's had, like the coaching tree from Andy Reid, that permeates throughout the NFL is unbelievable.
Well, it's interesting. I was just talking about this the other day. There has never been a team ever that had 7 or 8 assistants off one team become head coaches.
Yeah.
Never. Sean McDermott was a quality control defensive back.
Yeah.
He's the coach of the Bills.
Harbaugh.
Okay. Steve Spagnuolo was the assistant defensive back coach.
Right.
He was a head coach in St. Louis. Les Frazier was our D-back coach. He was a head coach in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Ron Rivera was our linebacker coach, Carolina. My coach, John Harbaugh, he was my coach for 5 years. Brad Childress, our coordinator, was a head coach in Minnesota. Pat Shurmur was our tight end coach. He was a head coach with the Giants in Cleveland.
That is unbelievable.
David Culley was the head coach with Houston. And the number 1 guy who was coveted out of all of them and turned it down, he turned down the 49ers, was our great defensive coordinator, Jim Johnson.
Right.
He was the guy who could have got the job the most, but I think he was older and he just wanted to stay here. But you go look at that team, that coaching picture from that 1999, 2000.
That's amazing.
There's never been a staff where so many assistants off of one staff became head coaches.
The closest would be
about
Bill
that.
Walsh. Bill Walsh had a lot of
I think there's a couple
disciples.
that had 6.
Right.
But now remember, back then there was only like 15 coaches. Today there's like 24 coaches on NFL team. 24 full time.
You mentioned
so only out of 15 guys.
You mentioned being older. I remember at the vet. Now, I'm in probably my early 30s. And at the vet, I did the music, so I'd be late coming out of, coming to our parking lot. And where we'd go out is where the players went out, where coaches went out, and some of the people that worked there late would come out, the vet. Do you remember?
We call that walking the gauntlet.
The front desk. So I remember you'd have fans around there, right?
They would wait there.
And they'd wait there, autograph seekers. And I remember, I did the music. I'm probably 32 at the time. I'm walking through, and this kid goes, "Hey, are you a player?" And his friend goes, "No, man, he's too old to be a player." And the guy goes, "Are you the fanatic?" I'm looking at my belly. I'm like, really?
But listen,
really?
Fans are so excited that they're hoping.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's almost like in a situation, tell them you are. Because even if you're not, they're so excited they can go say, "Hey, I met a player," and they want you to be one. It's so funny, like that. But even though the vet, they say what they want, I have fond memories of the vet. Maybe nostalgic. Maybe we were younger.
That was my big league stadium, man. I loved that place.
It, and just the way it was set up, and I loved the vet.
It killed a lot of knees, but
no, it did. It did.
I used to run this after at dusk. After work, I would run the stairs. Right, I loved going up and down the different lower level, and every so often, like in your peripheral vision, you'd see like something dart and it was one of the cats that
Or whatever was underneath
and-
there.
or whatever was on there. And another time we had a game, and the Eagles were playing the Cowboys. I think it was the Cowboys, and it was Monday Night Football, and I was in our cubicles. I thought I was the only one there, and I'm watching. I'm in a suit, and I'm watching the end of the game. Eagles are driving. They all they had hit was a 30-yard field goal. They win the game, and it gets blocked. Eagles lose the game, and I kicked my foot up in anger, and I had loafers, and my loafer went up into the ceiling tile, and it somehow flipped up, and the ceiling tile landed correctly, but my shoe stayed up there.
Unbelievable.
So now, and all of a sudden, Chris Wheeler, who was doing notes late night, I didn't see Wheels, and Wheels said, Brazer, you okay? I'm like, no, I lost my shoe. And I had to walk home. I had to go home without a shoe, and the next day I had to get a maintenance guy to get my shoe out.
I was going to say, if you never got it when they imploded it,
Right,
it got buried with the stadium.
My shoe went down with the stadium. So.
Wow, it's great
Were you
stuff.
there for this stadium implosion?
No, but I got to tell you another funny story about that. So, they announced it's going to be like in February or March. And we're playing somebody there, and Troy Aikman was the announcer. And Troy would always come down to the field because they want to talk to players to get little notes or say hello. And so we're talking. I'm like, well, Troy, they're going to implode this place. And he's standing there with his hand in his pocket. He goes, can you do me a favor? Let me know when they do and save me a front row seat because I want to be here when they blow this this blanket place up.
Right.
I'm like, oh, you didn't like your time here? Because when he broke in, 89, 90, 91, they were just getting good, and that's when that Eagles defense was ferocious.
And the turf. And
some of his toughest days, as great as he was there. But he didn't even smile.
Yeah.
He's like, dude, get me a front row seat because I want to be here. I was in South Beach, Miami. I was actually down there, and I totally forgot about it. Woke up, I turned on the TV, and they had it live.
Right.
They had it live.
Yeah.
And I just sat there, and again, I was like, wow.
Yeah, you bring
when it came
brought
down,
back
I'm just
a lot of
thinking,
memories.
all my time there.
All right, well, guys, thank you so much, Shawn. That was a pleasure having you on.
Thank you, John.
Thank you,
Always
brother.
great to see you,
As
Tommy.
always,
brother.
Thank
and that
you.
was your Bet Parx Saturdays PHLY show. I am John Brazer, Shawn Landetta, Tommy Greene. Hopefully we're back for another show.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Tee to Green. So until then, as the late, great Harry the K says,
We're out of here.